Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Wes, Andy, and Hank, and we are back. Guys, every time we get to the end of one of these, I get a little sad.
Yeah, it's bittersweet.
I'm super excited because I love this episode, but I'm a little sad because the show is over. I mean, Obi-Wan Kenobi is over. Our show is not over.
No,
We have
not by a
more.
long shot. No.
And there is hope.
There is hope.
There is hope. There's rumblings.
There is
that
a
they
lot
might
of
do a
hope.
season
Well,
two.
so here's the thing, right? I mean, I've read all kinds of things saying that, everything from Deborah Chow is saying, hey, if the fan support is there,
Mm-hmm.
And I can't see how it wouldn't be.
well, there's more stories. There are more stories that could be told. The question is,
Should they?
Do they need to be? Yeah, should they? That's another great question. Do they need to be? Should they be?
Yes.
As fans of things as we are, and that we like to celebrate all things fandom, I don't think any of us would say no to more.
No, especially if it's the same kind of level of quality.
Yeah. And I don't think the House of Mouse would frown upon, more content, more money.
The highest watched opening of any Disney Plus original series
That's got
has to say something.
Yeah.
At least one or two people.
I would hope so.
Guys, what did you think? I mean, it's over. There's the 6 episodes over. Did anybody do a complete rewatch of the entire series between between the other day, it's Wednesday, and today?
Not yet.
You did?
Yeah, I did. I really can't stop watching it. I do that with all of them, though. I really do. This one was a little easier because actually the short length and sort of short episodes worked a lot better. So you could dedicate like 3 hours to it. It's not crazy.
When you watch it concurrently like that, just give us an idea of what the playback is when you watch it like fluidly all the way through, or in one or two sittings. What's that like?
See, you really see Obi-Wan change physically, whether it's the makeup or the acting. You really see him like things I didn't notice before because they were so subtle, but the way he's just like, crouching and inside himself and very like hollow jawed and right. Like bags under his eyes, and that stuff starts to slowly disappear. The other thing was almost a beef that I had with the first few episodes was that the original sort of soundtrack was very, there was a drop here and a drop there, almost like notes. And
when you say original soundtrack, do you mean like John Williams'
stuff.
work?
Yeah, it's like they sampled him, right? Like, and I know that he did the theme, and then it was sort of worked by like 2 or 3 artists together. But by the time you get to the end and watching it concurrently, you slowly see that those notes get longer and longer, and until you're in the finale that we're about to do, and you're getting the full. You get Leia's theme, you get Obi's theme, you get Vader's theme, you get the
Force theme,
yeah. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and it becomes apparent that it was on purpose. I'd mentioned, I think in the first episode, it was disconcerting seeing Vader without Vader's theme. It unhinged me from the moment and caused right. So it was on purpose, and it's not, you really can begin to see the small subtle things rack up over time. The two that struck me are the music and Ewan McGregor's sort of awakening from the cocoon.
We're big fans of the terminology. Everything is intentional in Star Wars. Certainly it is in the stuff that we've consumed over the last, since we've been doing our show. And to me, it's never been more apparent than it was in this final episode. The intentionality of, right down to, like we said, like of all 6 episodes, just one, episode 5, had a transition that wasn't a hard cut.
Right.
Very intentional, not just in terms of filmmaking, but of storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Such huge amounts of emotion in this final episode.
So much of it conveyed through the eyes.
Yeah, eyes, tone, lighting. Yep. I was never more aware of lighting in a show than I was in this one.
Yeah, really.
Which we are going to talk about specifically when we get to that. But is it safe to say that Obi-Wan delivered on everything we wanted to see?
I would think so. I got everything I wanted out of it.
You did?
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about this because we did the trailer breakdown back before the series dropped, and we actually asked that question, what do you want to see? And I had a list of things. Hank, you had a few things you wanted to see.
Yeah.
If we were to ask that question again, did we get everything out of it, and compare it to what we had said 7, 8, 10 weeks ago?
Yeah.
I do have a couple things and these are so minor that they're not to be construed as like I'm criticizing the show, because I'm really not. I'm a huge fan. I loved everything about it.
Right.
But if you wanted to ice the cake for me,
add a couple more cherries.
Sure. There are a couple things I would have liked to have seen, and I think that's a kind of a nice way we'll start here with that. Let's open this up here. I wanted to see the Lady Inquisitor helmets. You know, the concept art kind of dropped one for us with the with Reva coming off the Scythe shuttle. I thought, oh great, which is also the same one where they dropped the Purge Trooper.
Yeah.
And I honestly thought we got the Purge Trooper. I thought we were going to get the Lady Inquisitor helmet as well, and we didn't. Not a big deal. We still saw them in Jedi Fallen Order, and we're going to probably see them again in the next one in the follow-up.
Well, so much of her part was conveyed through her emotions and her face, right?
Yeah.
And like, I know
they
do it well with the Mandalorian, but how much of that would have come through if she was stuck wearing a helmet the whole thing?
Even if it was just for that, first encounter when they landed and they got off.
Yeah, and she just, take the helmet off and there's your nod.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That would have been just sort of the for me, right? I would have loved that.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the only other thing, and really, this is the one I struggle with the most, because I really, really, really wanted a live action version of the Clone Wars look. And they could have delivered on that. And probably not surprising when I say the training duel. You could have moved the time. You could have shifted the timeline around a little bit, and you could have had that training take place
during the Clone
War, and it still would have had the same impact. And we could have got the visual nod to the Clone Wars look. But that being said, I'm still super, super happy with the way that they did present that duel. So none of this was a deal breaker. Like I said, these are just sort of like, the final icing.
I mean, I probably would have liked to seen the Inquisitors fly in live action.
Yeah,
that would be pretty dope. And
probably Inquisitor copter
served to ignite the crazy fandom menace up a bit. But I mean, it's such a cool little thing that they throw in Rebels, and like Lauren's fond of saying, like the Jedi, why can't they fly? They're sort of.
I know. I mean, if you can do
limited
all
by
these
their
things,
imagination, maybe. Yeah, Ahsoka
maybe.
flashback.
Yeah. So unidentified Facebook user who says Ahsoka flashback. Follow-up comment to that says, I wanted to see the three of them together again. Oh, that's an interesting. Now, I mean, do you think, though, with the upcoming Ahsoka series coming out next year, do you not think that maybe that is the place where we'll get that reunion?
Probably fit better. I as much as I love Ahsoka, because she is like top 5, I really like the character. She might have taken too much away from the one-on-one that Obi and Vader were having throughout the series. Just that one leg sort of, it would have veered a little too much. I mean, I wouldn't have argued at all, but I think that it worked perfectly the way it was. Yep. And you sort of had to have them like as islands almost.
Yeah, that's hard to argue with, really.
And should they do a flashback in the Ahsoka show, that's a perfect opportunity there to also give you your clone armor.
Well, exactly. So, I mean, we could be getting that at a later date. Who knows, right? I mean, we joked about it last week. Hank, you've said it many times before. Ahsoka season 1. You mean Star Wars Rebels season 5?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All right. I just want to talk a little bit more I want to put some generalities out there before we get right into the meat of it, because we really unpacked a lot on the show. Hang on a second here. I don't want to take that out. There we go. We unpacked quite a bit, and I want to go back and revisit some of the things that we said, particularly some of the things that I said, and and then sort of rephrase them and find out, or just kind of talk about where we are now on that. I was like certain that Reva was going to be the redemption arc of the series. And now that it's over, I'm not 100% convinced that that's the case. I'm really not. Is her life's trajectory changed? Absolutely. But is she redeemed at this point?
I don't know if she's fully redeemed, because she said she's done some
she's
terrible
forgiven.
stuff. Yeah.
She's been forgiven. If anybody could give her absolution, see that absolutely, and I don't want to get into it too much before it happens, but Obi gives a few people absolution in this episode. You know, like Roker, Leia, the Vader, Anakin. Reva. So he actually is handing out forgiveness, not unlike Christ. A bit. You know, the look.
Well, it's not like we didn't have that analogy in this episode anyway.
Right.
I mean,
and so redeemed remains to be seen if they choose to follow it. But
she's
absolved,
started that path.
Forgiven, 100%.
Do we think? Okay, so here's another comment coming in here. This one says she's about. Sorry, I'll put this up here. She's about to go on her Xena quest. So here's my follow-up question. Did we just get a soft pilot for a Reva spinoff?
Maybe. Again, it's like you said at the beginning of the episode. Is it a story that needs to be told?
Yeah.
Like, and that's what I kind of worry sometimes as we grow and grow and grow.
Are
we going to begin to tell stories that don't need to be told just for the sake of having Star Wars? And I hope we never sort of go down that road. I hope not that I don't love the character of Reva, but she's a supporting character. I don't know that, not the actress. The actress could certainly carry her own show, but is the character mean enough to me to bring me in every week to watch it? I mean, if she's carrying a red lightsaber and hanging around with the Grand Inquisitor, almost certainly. So maybe if it's a show about her coming up, but if it's a show about her hiding in the shadows, trying not to get caught,
sure.
You know, hard to say. I know one thing token, though,
right?
Sorry, Andy, you go ahead.
By the same token, we didn't know Din Djarin at the beginning of The Mandalorian.
Oh no, we
didn't.
Look
how that turned out.
Oh, you're right.
There's a story that needed to be told.
No, absolutely.
So, in the right hands, for sure.
Yeah. No, I can't argue with that. Like we all make valid points. Hank, you were going to say something.
Oh, it's just that we had talked about your discipline and having basically radio silence coming up to this.
Yep.
And I had read a plot leak, and unfortunately, it was spot on.
The plot leak.
The plot leak was spot on. In fact, it said Reva finds Luke can't kill him because of her past. This in a nutshell. I was like,
oh, really?
So it was spoiled for me. So but I didn't know that it was coming. When it came, I wasn't surprised. But I did before the show even aired. I had read a plot synopsis spoiler, and it was.
I have some serious questions about Luke. I have some very serious questions about Luke when we get to it, because there's a certain point of view that's presented, and I want to explore that a little bit more, because I'm not sure how to interpret what I saw. But before we get there, I want to just talking about like cameos and soft pilots and sort of what can we do with this. You know, to just close up on Reva, I actually think that there is, we know that the Inquisitorius, we don't see the Inquisitorius past the end of Star Wars Rebels. Presumably they've died out, or they cease to exist by the time we get to A New Hope. So if they were just to put this character down and leave it to the viewer to decide what Reva's future looks like, I would be okay with that. I actually think that Roken and Haja have a better chance at turning up, and I actually think them turning up in Andor is actually highly likely. I mean, we're talking Andor is just a few years before Rogue One, which puts it just minutes away from A New Hope. The Rebel Alliance isn't quite there yet, so these characters who are part of this nascent the path as an analogy for a rebel cell, perfect opportunity for them to show up and maybe
even bring back Tala, though.
Where in Andor?
Yeah.
I don't think that Andor starts early enough.
Is it not?
We could get some flashbacks.
She could be an antagonist in that,
I read
right?
spoiler things about that as well.
Okay.
But Roke's the perfect kind of character to put in a position of a leader, of a because let's face it, it's a burgeoning rebellion. Whether it's on paper or not, whether it's got the Phoenix symbol or not, it's the burgeoning rebellion. And I'd heard it said, and I can't remember, it might have been Screen Crush. I can't remember, Ryan Airy. But it's great to use a new character that's well acted, well rounded, well developed, has some good lines, good interaction with classic characters, rather than to have, like, say, a young General Nadine.
Oh, sure.
Instead of clubbing that stuff over the head, we get something fresh, which is, it could have easily worked the other way. But I like to see that stuff, and I could easily see that character moving forward.
Fair enough. I know I don't want to take away anything from the when we get down to our breakdown, but I just want to. I don't have any much more to say here except I just want to touch on that final sequence. Spoiler: the Emperor shows up. When Vader goes from we will go through anything and everything to get Obi-Wan, and he's so driven, so obsessive, as we've already talked about in our previous episode, how obsessed Vader really is. Comes through like in spades in this episode. And then in the span of half a second, I'm not sure your feelings are clear on this matter. He means nothing. And I'm like, what? But fans, if you have not revisited Rebels or have not watched Star Wars Rebels yet, please go back and watch the final sequence between Vader and the Emperor, and then immediately put on Season 1, Episode 1 of Star Wars Rebels, and look at the interaction between Darth Vader and the Grand Inquisitor, and just think about how much more weight that scene now has, and why it kind of makes a little bit more sense. Because as it is by itself, for Vader to just drop everything was like, what? That's so uncharacteristic. But having the Inquisitorius at your disposal, you can still sort of live vicariously, I suppose.
And it really rings true with the way that their relationship is developed in the comics.
The Emperor and Vader.
Because Palpatine 100% is an abusive father.
Oh, sure.
And so he doesn't even have to get angry at Anakin or at Vader to curtail him. He uses it's like, it was so passive aggressive. Are you sure your feelings are clear on the matter? If they're not, I could
clear them
Dooku
for you.
There's lots of Dooku's out there. So
looks like we need another Dooku.
Dooku. You didn't have one at that point, too.
All right. Any more just casual general thoughts you want to put out there before we get into the beat by beat?
No, let's get into it.
All right. How about you, Hank?
Yeah, man.
Okay, let's do it. All right, guys. It is the last episode of our little show here called The High Ground. Thank you for staying with us for the last 6 episodes. This is technically our 7th episode as we cover part 6. It is the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, part 6, now streaming in its entirety on Disney Plus. This episode debuted Wednesday, June 22nd, 2022. The teleplay on this one is by Joby Harold, Andrew Stanton, and Hossein Amini, with the story by Stuart Beattie, Joby Harold, and Andrew Stanton. And as the entire series has been, it is directed by Deborah Chow.
Bravo.
Yeah, good on her.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Toronto girl.
Is she?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, man.
I did not know that either.
This one is the longest episode in the series, with a whopping runtime of 51 minutes, even with the recap and the credits, or a leaner 42 minutes and 7 seconds without. And the synopsis this week doesn't really give anything away. It just says the action-packed special event finale.
Well, it sums it up pretty good, though.
Well, it does, doesn't it? Let me just get the slides here ready, because I want to make sure we get to the right one here. All right, here we go. Our episode opens, and we are back on the sands of Tatooine. We open with a shot of an open-air market. Now, people are bustling about their business as the camera closes in on a vendor dispensing water from a portable vaporator. The foreman from the whale meat site shoves his way into the line, knocking an old man aside. By the way, the credits list this guy as Foreman Groff Ditcher.
No.
Ditcher, an apt name given his demeanor that we saw back in part 1 and in this one. Ditcher. Looking at the vendor, he barks, "Something you want to say?" And from off camera, we can hear the voice of Riva answer, "I have something to say." The foreman turns and shoots her an angry, "Wait your turn. You can have what's left when I'm done." Then we see a hooded Riva use the force to knock the water from the man's hand. Her midsection is bound with a dressing of some kind, no doubt covering the wound from her encounter with Vader. The not-so-tough foreman slinks away, and Riva steps up to the very nervous water vendor. Pulling back her hood, she stares at the man and hisses, "I'm looking for a farmer named Owen."
You know what, though? If that's all he gets, he got off lucky.
The vendor.
No, the
foreman. the foreman, Ditcher.
Yeah.
Well, I actually thought he was going to get a little bit more of a comeuppance earlier on, and I kind of thought it was, honestly, I thought Ben was going to give him some kind of like dressing down, whether it was embarrass him or...
Well, how about season 2, he comes back and cuts off his hand?
I'm surprised Riva didn't do that. She's the hand taker.
She already took one this series.
What's another one then?
True.
We cut to space where we can see the refugee freighter, and it's being pursued by Vader's Star Destroyer, the Devastator. The smaller freighter jinks and weaves as turbo laser fire erupts all around it, while a few blasts do impact on the vessel's shields. On the bridge, Vader strides toward the viewport, where he orders the captain to increase firepower. Taking another hit from the Star Destroyer, the freighter streaks past the camera, where we cut to the ship's interior. Obi-Wan stares up at the bulkhead as the ship is rocked by another turbo laser blast. The passengers remain remarkably calm despite being jostled about the overcrowded cabin. Well, just then, Roken enters, announcing that the hyperdrive is almost ready and we'll head for Tessin. We'll get you out from there. Now, Tessin, the best I can tell, that's a new name drop in this episode that appears nowhere else.
Yeah, I couldn't find it.
I got nothing for you on that one. So we'll have to watch for that in future Star Wars media.
Talk for a split second about how we've fully embraced the sequel sort of version of hyperspace travel.
You want to talk about that right now?
Well, it's just because we've just saw Riva arrive at Tatooine, essentially. And she left after the freighter's chase, and they're still being chased. It sort of reminds me a little, and I'm not trying to say anything bad here, but it reminds me a little of the super slow chase from Rise of Skywalker.
Well, okay. Yep.
And it's funny that light speed is, I guess, instantaneous now, whereas in Legends, especially the novels and comics, months to travel clear across the galaxy. Interesting. I'm cool with it. But it really changes. It reinforces. I'd like to maybe even do a show one time. I have this theory that A New Hope takes place in less than 24 galactic hours. So
that's interesting.
From farm boy to blowing up the Death Star before nightfall, except with the exception of the one night that does occur when they lose R2 and wake up the next morning. That's the 24-hour period.
I suppose. Yeah.
So that in terms of going to Alderaan and jumping around back to Yavin and such. So if instantaneous light speed may have been a thing the whole time.
Who knows? I mean, Star Trek had a similar thing when TNG came out, and suddenly the speeds were much faster, and the warp system was no longer, the way that it had been established in the 60s. And like you say, in Star Wars, the sequel trilogy really did change the way that hyperspace travel works, just because it seemed to be instantaneous.
Yeah. Oh, we're there.
Yeah. And you said it when we were talking earlier this week as we were prepping tonight's show. If Riva can get there in such a short time, you put it into perspective, Ben gets there even faster.
Yeah. But they're traveling backwards in time, so they can get before each other.
So again, though, as a fan, as somebody who embraces, all the Star Wars content that's coming out,
right?
You know what? It's a small thing.
And I had to remind somebody even in the fan group this week that it's because they were complaining about how the even if it was a second stomach, there's no way to cauterize that wound, and the Grand Inquisitor would have died from that. And I had said to the gentleman, I'd rather keep my canon intact and exchange action and adventure for real world stuff, because after all, it's science fantasy, it's space opera, and I wrote that comment in less than a parsec.
What's funny is I had a very similar exchange online. Speaking of that, about that specifically, I know we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but you know, that as a nitpick, not for me, but as a nitpick that has been spoken about. I mean, just look up death tropes as a literary device and why villains keep coming back, because those death tropes, they're always associated with other themes like honor and regret and all these other things that just make for good drama.
It's true.
And when you realize that, then you understand that having the Grand Inquisitor survive and having Reva survive just is good use of that trope.
Yeah, read your Joseph Campbell, kids.
It is a literary device, and it's used very well in this series, if you ask me.
Revenge is a great motivator for survival,
as the Grand Inquisitor does say so himself.
And just to throw another spin on this, they don't actually tell us how long that they've been in pursuit.
No, they don't. Like, that's true.
For all intents and purposes, they could have been traveling for like a week trying to fix this hyperdrive.
That is entirely possible.
Those are some serious shields.
Yeah. Well, there is that. I guess I'm spoiled, and maybe that's where I kind of go, because I am so steeped in the role-playing games, the older role-playing games, which did so much to establish the nuts and bolts of how things work in the Star Wars galaxy. It is no secret that when Timothy Zahn went to write the original Thrawn trilogy, we've said this before, this is a fact, people, you can fact check me on this one, he was handed a copy of the West End Games Star Wars role-playing game and the Star Wars the source book, and was told, read these.
Right, exactly.
So I mean, I think that's where I kind of get a little spoiled on things, but it's okay. I'm totally okay with the new canon. All right. Tessin, like I said, is a new planet. Ben, sensing that something is wrong, it gets up and he follows Roken out of the cabin. He says rhetorically, "We're not going to make it to Tessin, are we?" Leveling with him, Roken tells Ben that the hyperdrive motivator is shot and the power couplings are bad. He says he's working on it, but the ship's shields won't last forever. And I find that hilarious, by the way, because both of those, now this is one of those questions I have. Is this just another rhyme in the stanza, the rhyming stanzas, the poetry that is Star Wars? Is this just another way to connect us back to the Millennium Falcon thematically? Or is this an in-story way to tell us that these particular parts on Corellian ships are known to be faulty because both of these devices have failed on the Millennium Falcon when they were trying to go to hyperspace? The power coupling when they escaped the first Death Star. And it was the motivator that the Empire had actually tampered with before Lando flew the Falcon out of Cloud City.
Motivators are bad all around, though. Like, look at that one droid in A New Hope.
Before
it even gets R4. I
was going to say, you mean Pelimato's droid?
Yeah.
R5.
R5. It's got a bad motivator.
That's right. Yeah. I just find it interesting that, you know, as much as it is a callback, or in this case, a call forward, there is that deeper question. Is this just a way to connect that this is a Corellian ship, or just a nice, clever way to go, wink, wink, hey, this happened to the Falcon? You know,
yeah.
Interesting.
Everybody loves that.
Yeah, exactly. Ben asks Roken how much time he needs, and shaking his head, he answers, more than we have. Walking back through the cabin, Ben looks at the passengers and sees the fear on their faces when yet another turbo laser blast rocks the ship. Under the window, the mother and son that we first met back at Hodges in part 2,
I believe so.
Underneath a window, Princess Leia and Lola do their best to entertain them as more turbo laser blasts explode around the ship. Seeing Ben watching them, Leia walks over and says, "They're scared," adding that Lola helps keep their minds off of it. Kneeling down, Ben looks at Lola. Then lifting his eyes to meet Leia, he somberly says, "Maybe I should borrow her too." All right. Now, we missed this back in part 2, and I feel awfully bad about this, because this is one of those big, deep cuts that we usually are on top of.
Oops.
So that little boy there, that's Indy DeRoche. And in the credits for the series, in the 3 episodes that he appears in, he is credited as Corran. His mother, however, does not appear in the credits. However, take this, with a grain of salt. Her IMDb lists her character's name as Nietzsche. Well, they're both famous Star Wars names. One, we actually kind of theorized that, Corran Horn being a famous Jedi. We made that connection because of the name Val Halcyon, which was one of the names that was carved into the wood on Mapuzo. But if you put all 3 of those things together, then this character almost certainly is a young Corran Horn. Corran Horn, who, of course, appeared in the Star Wars X-Wing series of books, particularly the Rogue Squadron ones, and then would go on to become a Jedi Master under Luke Skywalker's tutelage. But that is, as I said, that is almost certainly a young Corran Horn. So cool to if we see more of him going down the line.
Yeah, super, super cool. If he survived the Jedi
Temple. Well, there is that.
Yeah.
Back on Tatooine, Owen and Luke enter a local parts shop. They both lean up against the counter, and the shopkeeper asks Luke, "What do you need, kid?" It's a simple interaction, but the tone and the mood of this scene suggest that this exact same scenario has played out many, many times before between these 2 characters. As Luke tells the shopkeeper they need a new belt for the speeder, Owen shoots the boy a sideways look as he says, "A certain somebody broke the last one." Luke smiles at the shopkeeper, who tells him, "Your uncle's a patient man." But Owen, who's now elbows deep in some spare parts, retorts, "I'm not that patient." And just then the water vendor enters the shop. Spotting Owen, he calls out and says, "There's something you need to know."
New alien?
I don't know. Is he, or is he just a hairier version of something we've already seen before?
Maybe. He looked pretty new to me, but
I honestly cannot tell. Yeah, I couldn't place him either. And it made it this week's episode. I don't know if any of you guys out there who casually watch the show, or maybe you're hardcore viewers like we are, the descriptive audio was off this week on every platform. It was off like several seconds, which made it very difficult to huh? So it wasn't extremely helpful this week.
So was this a missed opportunity, though?
In what sense?
In that we could have had a Watto cameo?
Well, so I wanted to talk about that for a second, because the impression I got when they walk in the door is it looks a lot like Watto's junk shop, doesn't it?
A little bit.
With the round, the countertop in the middle. I thought it was reminiscent of Watto's to me anyway.
For sure.
Under new ownership.
Well, the different cities.
True. 2
different cities, right? Mos Espa, and this is what Anchorhead, or is it? Yeah, this is Anchorhead. Yeah,
assuming it's Anchorhead.
Yeah.
Franchised.
Maybe.
Water might have passed. He was looking pretty grim, and
he did not look very well. Yeah. Annie, little Annie. All right. Back on board the freighter. Ben now crouched down in front of Leia. Leia, she's visibly upset with her arms thrown up in the air. She shouts at Ben, no way. You can't just leave me here. Ben tries to reason with her, telling her that he is the one that Vader wants. And if he goes, Vader will follow him and not the freighter. But Leia shouts, I'm not letting you. Well, Ben tries to reason with her again, but she is inconsolable. Now, with her outburst, the entire cabin is fixed on their interaction. And as Leia backs away from Ben, it's Niche who interjects from her seat saying, what happened to all of us staying together? As the lights flicker from another near miss, Ben begins to explain. He says that Roken needs more time to fix the ship, and this plan will give him that. Ben tells the refugees, you've spent 10 years protecting the Jedi. This is my chance to return the favor. Then Roken speaks up saying, but we're so close. Ben pleads with them saying, you know this plan makes sense. While Sully emphatically chimes in, no, we need you. But it's Ben that has the last word when he says, it will buy you the time you need. You must get these people out of here. Gesturing at the crowd, and then at Leia, he adds, you are all the future. You are the future. Leia looks away from Ben as he continues, you're what needs to survive. With a sharp no, Leia stomps off towards the back of the ship. Ben tries to go after her, but Haja steps between them and in a calm tone says, I find she just needs to be given space. His words trail off as Ben pleads with him, "You must promise me that you'll get her home, Haja, as soon as I'm in the clear." Caught off guard by the request, Haja pauses for a moment before he answers, "You have my word." Continuing, he says, "Although the word of a liar and a fake Jedi may not mean much to you," but Ben cuts him off with, "It's good enough for me," before walking away. I just want to talk about this for a second, because this is a huge, I mean, Haja is this one of these supporting characters that, well, you know that I was already sort of on the fence with him, but this is the moment where, for me anyway, it's like that guy's life just changed forever.
True.
Yeah.
When Ben says
absolution.
Good enough.
More absolution.
Yeah, well, there we go, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I actually feel like at this point, I mean, he's where he's, if you trust in the Force and you're where you're supposed to be, that's why I say, like, if Roken turns up in a future series, I kind of think that Haja will be with him.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
He's practically a modern guardian of the will.
Yeah, really. Back at the Lars farm, Beru is outside working on a piece of farm equipment. When Owen and Luke come home, Owen tells Luke to go inside. Beru, sensing that something is wrong, asks Owen, "What is it?" Not saying a word, he clasps her by the shoulder, ushering her inside the house. Pausing for a moment to look back over his shoulder, he steps down the stairs. Inside the house, Beru asks Owen, "How did she know he was here?" Owen answers, "I don't know. All I know is she's coming." When Owen says, "Ben is gone," Beru, with a laser focus, stares through Owen's head as she blurts out, "Whose fault is that?"
Mm-hmm.
But Owen is focused elsewhere as he says, they need to take Luke, leave the farm, and hide somewhere. At the same time, Beru goes to one of the interior walls of the house, where she slides a crate away from the wall, revealing a false door concealed by some plumbing. Hearing Owen's desire to run, she asks him, "Where? In the desert?" Then, digging in, Beru tells her husband that she's not leaving her home, that if they stay here, they would at least have a chance. Owen argues that if they do stay, they'll need help. Then, staring up at Owen, she says, "I'm not putting anyone else in danger, Owen. We're enough, you and me." Pulling the false door away from the wall, Owen asks her, "What are you doing?" And Beru tells him that they both knew that this day might come, as she slides what appears to be two antique sporting blasters out from the concealed cubby. Tossing one of the rifles at Owen, Beru stands up, armed with the second one. Still laser focused, staring through him, she tells Owen she'll come when the suns go down. Best we get positioned now, and then marches off, leaving Owen standing there quite flabbergasted. Man, when they said that Beru was coming back for this, and then she didn't do anything, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, you get the same actor for consistency. And I thought, is she not going to get a moment? And oh my God.
Yeah, it's wicked.
Take charge.
So I just want to talk about her for a second, because think about the Beru that we know from A New Hope, from Star Wars 1977. This version of Beru, wow. I have a whole new respect for her, for Owen too, to be quite frankly. I mean, Beru was really kind of the foil to Owen's sort of curmudgeonly, gruff exterior. And she was like the kindly aunt that would never say, shit if her mouth was full of it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the first thing we see her doing in this sequence, she is working on a piece of farm equipment. Okay, yeah. So that's like check mark right there. Ba-bing. And it's Beru that's like, "No, we're going to stay." And Owen, who's like, "No, we're getting out of here." Like, I have this total new respect for this character. And I can't help but think that more happened off camera when the stormtroopers showed up looking for the droids in 77.
Probably.
Yeah. Like, it just, there's a whole new sense of like, oh, I'd be interested to know what happened there. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, she said, we knew it might happen.
Yeah.
So in the back of her mind, she's been waiting for this. She's already got her plan laid out.
That's interesting. Yeah. You think she anticipated it?
Maybe not
or something
today or tomorrow, but at some point.
Well, I mean, to pack 2 rifles away.
Yeah.
They had to have known something was coming. I guess I hope that the troops thing isn't true.
That it was a domestic battery
and a thermal detonator that did the job.
Facebook comment says, this scene makes me look at their deaths a lot differently now. They went down in a blaze of glory. I tend to agree with that. I have like a newfound respect for both of these characters in a different way. That, you know, as gruff and as curmudgeonly as he is, she really does, you know, compliment him in a way that we just never saw before. Like the more than just being the wife in the kitchen making dinner, which is all we saw her do in the last one.
And maybe she's got a little more in common with Padme than
maybe
originally thought.
Maybe, but I mean, look at her eyes in that sequence. Like when I say like bores a hole in his head, like you know what I mean, right? And anybody who's married or has been in a long-term relationship knows exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. Where am I at here? Let's move on. Back on board the freighter, Haja and Leia share a quiet moment. We're not actually privy to what the conversation is, but it's not hard to imagine Haja trying to soften the blow about Ben having to leave. As Ben enters the compartment, Haja gets up to go, and on his way past, he whispers to Ben, "I talked to her. You're welcome." As Ben steps closer to the princess, she looks up at him saying, "You said you'd take me home." Looking down at her, Ben says that he wished he could. He asks the princess to please tell her father that he tried. Then, kneeling down, he says, "I have something for you," as he produces Tala's holster from under his robe and hands it to her. Ben tells her that Roken found it before they got out and that Tala would have wanted her to have it. Leia stares down at the leather and runs her hand across the opening, feeling the hash marks carved into it. She remarks, "It's empty." And Ben lightheartedly retorts, "Well, I wasn't going to give you a blaster, Leia. You're 10 years old." Leia sighs, and Ben adds, "But you won't always be." With that, Leia gets up from the stool she's sitting on, and the two share a long embrace. Then, staring at him square in the face, she very simply says, "Come back, please." And with a half smile, Ben replies, "I promise." Okay, so it's kind of important to talk about this. I know I'm kind of jumping ahead here to the end, and I don't mean to, but we all kind of agreed that this was the organic place to talk about this.
Yep.
Not including the comic books, because we are going to talk about that. Just visually in film and television, aside from this TV show, the only other time we see Leia wearing a holster is when she's at the Battle of Endor in Return of the Jedi. Mm-hmm. Like not even General Leia of the Resistance wore a holster, right? However, the 5-issue miniseries from Marvel Comics that takes place between A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back does depict Leia in a very similar outfit to the one that she's wearing at the end of this episode, and even more familiar to the one that her mother, Padme, wore in Attack of the Clones. Speaking specifically about the holster, do we think that this is Tala's holster? Like the one that she wears in the comics?
Maybe.
It could be. I also think that, you know, maybe she wore it, you know, up until she became a senator.
Could be.
Or at least, you know, well, you wouldn't wear one on your political duties anyway.
No.
Or was it something that was so, because I talked to Kim about this, and Kim was like, you know, it's like that, it's an heirloom kind of thing. Would you take that with you, or would you like lock it up at home somewhere because it has this special sentimental meaning? And if that's the case, was it lost when Alderaan was destroyed?
Well, the conversation they have is like, she can't wait to get old enough to fill it with a blaster.
Yeah. So
I think maybe it's more personal than that, than an heirloom. You know, not that an heirloom is not personal, but I think it's practical. It's that whole symbolic of her as, you know, her nature as a warrior, and there are more than one way to lead.
Eventually, it will be full.
When we see Tala discussing about how she wears it so she can cross draw it, it makes her faster. And the first thing that Leia says, "Can you teach me to do that?" Mm-hmm. Her desire to want to learn. Man, I don't know. I'm kind of torn on this one. Although I will admit that I would say that this actually had to take 2 images. We don't actually get a full body shot of Vivian in this episode. That's actually a panning shot as it pans down from top to bottom. So I had to take 2 stills and stitch them together into one.
Well done.
But I do think that is a nod to that look, her comic look from that miniseries.
Yeah.
All right. Sitting alone in the aft compartment of the freighter, Ben sits staring at his lightsaber. As another turbo laser blast rocks the ship, causing the lights to flicker, Ben lifts his head and, speaking into the void, says, "I have to face him, Master. Whether he dies or I do, this ends today." Then Roken enters the compartment, asking if Ben is ready. He tells them that the dropship is ready, but before Ben can answer, Roken says, "You don't have to do this. We can still fix the drive." But Ben is resolved and tells him, "I have to go." And then it becomes clear to Roken as he says, "It was never about us. You want to do it. It's about you and him." As another turbo laser explodes nearby, Ben tells him, "Just keep them safe." And Roken retorts, "Keep yourself safe too." As Roken turns to leave, Ben stops him. He says, "There are not many leaders left. People follow you. Don't stop." Roken half smiles as he says, "I'm just getting started," before leaving Ben alone with his thoughts in the compartment. Any idea where his headspace is at right now? And him, I mean Ben.
Well, yeah, I mean, he might be going off to die. So
yeah,
if anything, he's just reinforcing the future, making sure that these chess pieces are going to continue to play the role they have been playing.
Yeah.
This is one of the few times. I mean, it's one of the things in the show that I think was kind of, talked about, him trying to commune with Qui-Gon, which, there is that payoff by the end of the episode, but strange that they chose to insert another one here where, he's kind of speaking into the ether and nothing happens. Like, it just didn't, it seems kind of, to have two of them in the same episode where we've had episodes with no mention or no thought towards that training that he was supposed to do.
True.
Yeah.
But as he's sitting there looking at his lightsaber, like you say, he could be just going off to die. And that is probably what he's accepted.
Well, that's, like,
absolutely. My sacrifice will save you guys. I'm good with that.
He's not reaching out here to look for training. He's reaching out to tell Qui-Gon, like,
this is it.
This is the line. And
this is the end.
Yeah. Any truth in what Roken says? It was never about us. It was about you and him.
Maybe. Obi-Wan definitely knows Vader and knows why he's after them.
Much like the series, it becomes about Obi-Wan and Vader, but it is about a bigger picture to start, and it sort of narrows down by the time.
I think there is truth in what he says. I think that there is an element of, it is about me and him, but I also think that there's a much, as you say, there is a bigger picture, and I'm going to touch on that a couple more times. Why I think that it was never about just him, and there's certain reminders that come up that sort of go, "Oh, yeah, that's why we're doing this." Cutting to an exterior shot of space, the freighter still jinks and weaves while the Devastator continues the chase. As the camera closes in on the freighter, we see a ramp open from the ship's belly, and a small craft slips out the back and pulls away in the opposite direction. On the Devastator's bridge, Darth Vader and the Grand Inquisitor observe the fleeing transport from the viewport as an unseen crew member reports that they are tracking an escape craft with one life form aboard. Hank, apparently that technology only exists on Star Destroyers. It does not exist on seeker droids.
Right.
Couldn't detect the life form through a door, but we can across several miles of space.
Right. This is actually, so if I had to have a problem with anything in the whole series, I guess the fact that Vader just doesn't hop in a TIE fighter and
just go get him
and lets the Star Destroyer continue after the group.
Yeah.
It's huge plot armor, but I still love it because it gets us to where we're going. Yeah. But I kind of feel like if I know the character at all, you maintain pursuit while I deal with this personally.
I will take him alone.
Because we know Anakin as a general, he's too strategic to let something like that slip through his hands.
Yep.
And so it's a little iffy for me, but still it gets us to where we need to go, and it's beautiful. And it's kind of neat to watch the Inquisitor second guess a young Vader. because you kind of get the impression like circa A New Hope, circa Empire Strikes Back, that guy would have been force choked out like no problem.
So that is the exact question I have. Vader declares that's him, but the Grand Inquisitor interjects saying, "My lord, we must continue our pursuit of the insurgents. Now is our chance to wipe out this network in its entirety. We cannot prioritize one lone Jedi."
And a little bit, he's still used to working for the Emperor, right?
I guess, because they directly work for Vader, right?
Now they do, but they did formerly directly work for the Emperor.
Okay.
Yeah, so but isn't that like a running theme in Star Wars?
What's that?
How many chances they had to snuff out everything at certain given times?
Well, okay, so they
always take the opposite chance.
There is that. I mean, that's a question that came up when I was discussing it with Kim. Was like, Ben had a chance to snuff out Anakin on Mustafar and didn't do it. He had a chance to snuff him out again in this episode and didn't do it.
Yep.
So I mean, that there is sort of a running like, I wonder why they didn't do that. But themes and metaphor,
for sure,
all play into it why they didn't, and it's beautiful.
It also speaks to the where Tarkin is in A New Hope, and he's Vader, release him, like he doesn't even calls him by his last name, essentially, like a subordinate.
I still think that the Grand Inquisitor was like crazy bold in this moment by just like, you're questioning him, like what?
Yeah, it's very bold. Yeah,
I even questioned this. If it wasn't Kenobi, if it was another Jedi, like let's say any other Jedi for that matter, would Vader have like disciplined him? Would he have force choked him? Would he have smote him on the spot, or at the very least disciplined him somehow?
Well, again, if the comics inform us at all, any other Jedi but Kenobi is just beneath Vader, and that's what the Inquisitors are for. He doesn't, right. The thing that brings him out in Rebels is not Kanan Jarrus and Ezra Bridger. It's Ahsoka.
No, it's the children of the Force. It's right in that. It's in the first episode. Yeah. All right. I actually just thought, what we know, for those of us who don't read the comics, I thought what we knew of Vader. I mean, he's happy to choke out Imperial officers like they're nothing. I couldn't imagine that that he wouldn't have disciplined him.
No, and it's a very nuanced hierarchy. So the
comment coming
Grand
in,
Inquisitor is up there.
Yeah, comment coming in from Facebook right now. It says the Inquisitor and Vader didn't get along in the comics.
No, it's true. That's very true as well. Yeah.
Well, I mean, then that scene that just lends itself to that. All right. Moving forward here. One more reason that I just want to talk about the freighter, because I could not identify the freighter back in the episode that it first appeared in, but I posited that it's likely a Corellian ship. It had sort of those sort of design elements, the round dish, the escape hatches on the side, and had that looks like a Corellian Corvette from the front. And I just want to say one more reason why I think that Roken's freighter might be a Corellian ship is the resemblance to its smaller dropship and how much it looks like the Hasbro Millennium Falcon escape pod that came with the Millennium Falcon, the Legacy Falcon.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the Legacy Falcon is the largest Millennium Falcon toy ever made, commercially available, that is. And it was repackaged as a Galaxy's Edge theme park exclusive as part of the Vintage Collection. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I know I was wrong with Tala's ship, where I tried to connect it to the Millennium Falcon through the Kenner mini rigs, and I know that was completely false. But like this one, I'm pretty sure it's hard to deny that one.
For sure.
Yeah, much stronger. Back on Tatooine, the twin suns hang low over the Lars farm as nightfall closes in. Inside, Owen and Beru usher Luke into the garage. Owen concocts a plausible story about the Tuskens are hunting and raiding farms along the edge of the desert. He tells the boy, "Stay in here," adding, "If anything goes wrong, you know what to do. You run." Luke tells his uncle, "I'm not afraid," and Owen says, "I know."
Legacy line.
Everything's going to be fine. Beru leans in and hugs Luke, mustering up the fakest of smiles. She tells him it's going to be okay. And then she and Owen lock the boy in the garage as they head out to defend the farm from the approaching Reva. The whole "I'm not afraid" line kind of echoes Luke's future when he's visiting, not visiting, when he's at Yoda's house, and Yoda says, will he finish what he begins?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Luke answers, I won't fail you. I'm not afraid. Only this time, it's Owen and Beru who can't fail Luke, and they are most definitely afraid.
Yeah, you will be.
You will be.
Well, the other thing, yeah, exactly. But this informs us a little bit more that characteristic, that personality trait with Luke has been with him his whole life.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it comes up later when Ben is describing to Leia, and basically he could give the same
traits, the same qualities. Yeah.
And maybe he did. We don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan continues to evade the Devastator's turbo laser fire. With a sharp change of course, Ben heads toward a nearby moon. A moon, by the way, that is not named. It is not named. I did not find a name for this. There was nothing. Sure. Yeah.
That is a moon.
Well, moon. That's all I got. Moon. Vader and the Grand Inquisitor still watching from the bridge of the Star Destroyer as Vader orders his ship to be prepared, saying, I will face him alone before he marches off. Ben brings the dropship in for a landing. It's nighttime on the moon, and the surface is littered with massive monolithic rock formations, but finding a suitable landing area between them doesn't prove to be difficult, and Ben sets the ship down neatly and powers it down. At the same time, Vader's Lambda-class shuttle departs from the Devastator's hangar and makes a beeline for the moon's surface. As Obi-Wan prepares for what he knows is coming, he takes off his outer robe only to discover that Leia has tucked Lola into a pocket, and she must have done so when they last hugged back on the freighter. Ben smiles as he takes in the little droid before he carefully places her on the dash of the dropship.
Maybe another missed opportunity as I'm thinking about it. I would have loved to see Vader's X1 tie.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of the Lambda shuttle.
Instead of the Lambda.
When he drops in the Rebels, when he's riding the top of it.
Oh,
on autopilot. One of the greatest scenes in all of Star Wars. It would have been nice to see a sort of a live action, something like that.
Yeah, big moment. You know what? Maybe there'll be, it's hard to postulate where we're going from here. And do people want more Vader? I think it's safe to say people want more Vader. If the fan outcry,
like 4 comics, there's a whole mini series
called 4 titles.
Titles. Yeah, there's a whole mini series called Vader Down, which is basically just Vader gets his ass kicked by a squadron of X-wings and then crashes, and has to sort of survive without his lightsaber and just the use of the Force. And there's a lot of stories about Vader to tell.
Yeah.
And it's a unique opportunity because very, very rarely are the protagonists of stories the villain.
Right. Yeah. So placing Lola back on the dash, he takes one last look before he opens the door to the cockpit and then departs the craft while Lola watches him through the canopy glass. Now, I want to point this out because to me, this is the first sort of nod to why it's not, Roken said, oh, it's not about us. It's about you and him. And no, yes, on some level it is. But this also reminds us that this connects us back to Leia. It's still about the Skywalker children. Really, that's ultimately what it's about. Because, Reva's arc is to get to the kids, gain favor. And, while we all know if Vader knew that he had offspring, they would become a threat to him.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
All right. Back at the Lars Moisture Farm, Reva's cloaked silhouette approaches the house. Now we can hear that her breathing is labored, suggesting that she is still very much affected by that abdominal wound. Inside, Owen and Beru are alerted by a perimeter alarm, and they know she's here. Clasping Beru's shoulder, he tells his wife, it's time. Meanwhile, Reva, now closer to the house, takes out her lightsaber but does not activate it. Back on the barren moon, Vader's shuttle settles down, and the Dark Lord of the Sith emerges down the ramp from the ship's underbelly. Vader stops at the bottom of the ramp. Just a few meters in front of him stands his former master, lightsaber in hand. Vader lumbers toward him. With his immense stride, he closes the distance in short order. Stopping just a few meters away from his former master, Vader questions, "Have you come to destroy me, Obi-Wan?" And yeah. Oh, I thought I put a thing in here. Did I not? Oh, you know what? I hate when I do that.
Oops.
I thought I had a part in here. I wanted to talk a little bit about I do. I actually have a thing in here. I'll get to it in a second. Sorry. Yeah, okay, this is exactly what I want. Sorry. I had a moment here where I had a bit of a brain fart. I wanted to talk a little bit about the visuals in this, because I read some complaints yesterday when I was kind of putting the finishing touches on my notes about how blurry and how kind of weird this sequence kind of looked. And I'm like, wait a minute, guys, like maybe it's just me, but you guys realize that Doug Chiang is the production designer on this show. And you do realize that Doug Chiang is schooled in the ways of one Ralph McQuarrie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if this is not like watching one of Doug Chiang's paintings in motion, then I don't know what is. It is so hauntingly beautiful and so Doug Chiang. And in saying that, so Ralph McQuarrie.
Mm-hmm.
I loved
100%.
every bit of this.
If it wasn't this dark before the lightsabers ignite, it wouldn't have the same, and I'm sure you're going to talk about it shortly, it wouldn't have the same impact, because light and color are about to play a huge part of storytelling.
Yeah. Activating his lightsaber, Ben tells Vader, "I will do as I must," as he drops into the familiar two-fingered point opening stance of Ataru, the fourth form of lightsaber combat. Mm-hmm. Vader, responding in kind, says, "Then you will die," as he ignites his crimson blade and lunges forward with an overhead power stroke, indicative of lightsaber form 5. And of course, I can't not bring that up without talking about all the lightsaber forms, because I know we touched on it before, but it's a fun thing, especially after the comment we had in our last show asking if we were going to talk about lightsabers. And this kind of got me thinking, yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about lightsabers. Back in part 3, we've already established that Ben Kenobi was a master form 3 Sorisu, which he was. But not surprisingly that he's also skilled in form 4 Ataru. Why? Because that was the style that Qui-Gon Jinn used. Now, Ataru is a fast-paced style that is effective against a single opponent, which of course we have here. It is characterized by force-assisted acrobatics like somersaults and leaps, both for attacking and for defense. But it is also characterized by fast strikes from multiple directions. In fact, up until Qui-Gon Jinn's death, Taru was Obi-Wan's preferred fighting style. And it was as a result of his death that Ben would switch to a hybrid blend of both styles, seeking to compensate for Ataru's inherent lack of defense. Now, Vader, on the other hand, is a true master of Form 5. Now, Form 5 is actually broken down into 2 variants. The first one, Sheen or Shien, I don't know how you pronounce that. I'm going with Sheen, which is considered to be the classical variant of Form 5 and is more effective at blaster defense. Kind of like Sorisu, but different in the sense that Sheen focuses specifically on reflecting the blaster fire back to its point of origin. So as opposed to just defensively protecting yourself, this actually creates openings and opportunities.
Said one of the few Jedi to be a master of this and not be a dark side user was Mace Windu.
Mace Windu was a practitioner of Vapad, which I think is Form 6, 7?
Form 6 or 7.
6 or 7. So then the second variation, Gemso, is primarily meant as a sword fighting form. Not surprisingly, some Jedi thought that Form 5 encouraged aggression and domination. No wonder Anakin was very good at it. Okay, but it's important to note, because we've talked about lightsaber forms before, and we're talking about them now, something else we didn't really talk about before. The 7 forms of lightsaber combat, and there they are. Number 1, Shicho. Number 2, Makashi. 3, Sorisu. 4, Ataru. 5, Sheen and Jem So, 6 as Niman, and 7 is another hybrid one, Juyo and Vapad. The lightsaber forms, again, as I said, I'm spoiled by the role-playing games. Lightsaber forms showed up in great detail, by the way, in the Star Wars role-playing game supplement Tales of the Jedi Companion from West End Games back in 1996. That book, however, was the tie-in to the Dark Horse Comics series of the same name that ran between 1993 and 1998. Excuse me. That series chronicled the events of the Great Sith War. Now, that happened in the year 3,996 BBY. So like almost 4,000 years before any of the movies. And then the Great Hyperspace War, which took place 1,000 years before that.
Right, yeah.
Now, most of the established lore from the comic series carried over into the immensely popular Knights of the Old Republic video game series. And the lightsaber combat forms, they would turn up again in a later edition of the role-playing game in the source book Power of the Jedi. And I thought I'd just throw this in just for giggles because anybody who's been paying attention knows that there is a Tales of the Jedi animated series in active development right now. It is billed as an anthology series, and while it has no release date, it is said to be a 6-episode anthology series based on prequel-era characters like Qui-Gon Jinn and Ahsoka Tano. But if, say, eras like the High Republic take off, or they want to revisit that Tales era / Knights of the Old Republic era, there's no reason why we couldn't, do that in future seasons of Tales of the Jedi, making it a full circle moment and connecting it all the way back to the Dark Horse comic series once again.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Vader and Obi-Wan's blades clash in a fury of sparks, and true to form, Vader is relentless as he unleashes a flurry of strikes and counter-strikes, forcing Ben to dodge. Vader even manages to throw Ben, forcing him to roll to avoid being struck down. In case you missed it, and this is important, by the way, Vader opens this fight one-handed, which should inform us a little bit of where his headspace is right now, that, potentially this is going to be a quick victory, I think.
Well, based on his last interaction.
Well, I mean, look at the fight with Reva. Like, he didn't even move. He turned in place, and those very specific hand movements.
Yeah.
Didn't even draw his own lightsaber in that fight. So no surprise that he's going into this maybe
cocky.
Well, I didn't want to say that. Overconfident, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little. All right. But even on his knees, Ben is able to deflect a barrage of swings and quickly gets back to his feet. Then, in a moment of deja vu, reminiscent of the training duel back on Coruscant, both men go back to back. But Vader has learned the lesson, and neither combatant can get the upper hand. They go back and forth several times, and neither man is able to land a blow against the other. And when they finally break, something shifts. Vader, not achieving the easy victory that he anticipated, puts both hands on his weapon as Ben leaps forward on the offensive. Very acrobatically, I might add.
Mm-hmm. Force assisted.
Yeah, exactly. Ataru. Back on Tatooine, Reva enters the courtyard of the Lars farm. It's dark and her eyes dart about as she searches for her quarry. Now, seeing her from his concealed firing position, Owen and Beru aim down their cut-off rifles. Reva ignites her lightsaber, the crimson blade acting as a light source as she steps further inside the farm. Finally, when she hits her mark, Owen and Beru open fire. Some of the shots go wide, while Reva deflects some of the others. Owen shouts, "Go, go, go," as he moves up a set of stairs to a higher vantage point. At the top of the stairs, he kicks over a potted plant and tosses a storage container down at her, but neither are effective, and Beru pours on more covering fire, which, by the way, is also completely ineffective.
They went to the same training school as New Age Stormtroopers.
I was going to say, apparently those blasters are not that accurate at like point blank range.
Clumsy and random.
That's so true, though. But you look at them, they look like they're made of wood. They look ancient. They look like they're sawed off, cut off.
Yeah.
Like, something that a biker gang would carry or a farmer would have for like vermin or pest control. I totally get it. Back on the moon, Vader and Ben continue their duel. Now, despite having choked up on his weapon, Vader still cannot land a blow as Ben, true to his form, ducks and rolls the blows that he cannot block. At the same time, Ben rapidly alternates from a one-handed grip to a two-handed grip in a series of deft strikes and counter strikes until he knocks Vader off his balance. And it's just the opening he needs to use the Force to topple one of the massive monolithic stalagmites on top of Vader. But Vader catches it mid-air as he remarks, "Your strength is returned." He then tosses the giant rock effortlessly as he retorts, "But the weakness still remains." And then he hurls a man-sized rock at Ben. Fortunately, Ben is fast enough to drop back a few steps, and he cleaves the rock into fragments with his lightsaber. Ben closes with Vader, and the two warriors circle one another. With his offhand, Vader actually punches Ben in the face, and of course, Ben reels from that. And then the two lock blades once more. Vader uses the Force to send a rock into Obi-Wan's legs, taking them out from under him. But Ben manages to roll out of the way and back up to his feet just as Vader's blade strikes the ground. Then, summoning his rage, Vader plants his hand to the ground, and using the Force, a crack forms under it. Then the crack speeds forward towards Ben, and the ground beneath it is rendered asunder as Vader exclaims,
smash.
"And that is why you will always lose." At the sound of the word lose, the ground gives out under Ben's feet, and he falls into a huge, huge sinkhole. Vader steps to the edge of the hole and stares down at him, but it's a fleeting moment as he hurls an unfathomable amount of rock down upon the hole, burying Ben alive. Staring at his handiwork, Vader rhetorically asks, "Did you truly think that you could defeat me?" Adding sarcastically, "You have failed, Master," as he turns away, leaving Ben for dead. I didn't build a slide in for this one, but I want to talk about this just for a quick second. One, this fight is freaking fantastic. I swear, every swing of a lightsaber could have been its own slide, but we'd have been here till next week.
We could do a whole episode on it if you like.
On just the fight. Yeah.
Man.
I mean, there's so much... Man, we talked a lot about how much emotion was conveyed by a character that wears a helmet. But I just want to talk about the inverse of that and how much was conveyed by Ewan McGregor's performance in this fight, because there's a lot of clear shots of his face.
Yep.
And he's going through a whole lot of stuff. There's fear, there's, determination. There's just a whole lot of things going on, and it just looks so incredible. But the moment when he falls into the hole, and I thought about it, should I build a slide for this? I'm like, no, because it's not really a Ben thing. It's more of a Luke Skywalker thing. The lightsaber straight up over his head, both hands on it, a la Luke Skywalker in the classic poster, The Further Adventures of.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is it me? Am I just making that up? Like, is it there? No, it is there, is it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I feel like it was anyway.
It's just a quick second, but I'm like, no, that's just him holding on to it. But, it could be. I don't know. I'll leave it to you guys. What do you guys think out there?
I sort of was really hoping Vader would be like, who's got the high ground now?
Perfect opportunity for exactly that.
I saw a great meme. I don't usually big up other people's memes, but I saw a great meme. It was a psychologist talking to Vader saying, "So what happened when you fought Obi-Wan the first time?" And he said, "Well, he had the high ground. And then what happened? Well, then he kind of cut me in pieces. And so you had the high ground this time. And what happened? I threw it at him. Doing what? Giving him the high ground."
Giving him the high ground. Oh, that's so funny. Sorry. Okay, back at the farm, Owen backs down the catwalk leading to the garage where Luke is locked in, unaware of what exactly is happening. He points his rifle at Reva, who uses the Force to toss a container at him, knocking him down and sending the rifle tumbling to the ground below. Staring down at Owen with a look of disgust on her face, she says, "You really love the boy like he's your own." Owen, now on his knees and armed with a length of pipe, retorts, "He is my own."
Mm-hmm.
Owen lunges at Reva with the pipe, aiming for her head, but she dodges the attack. But Owen is a motivated man, and he manages to catch her on the backswing, right in the midsection, aggravating her saber wound. Pressing the attack, Owen tries for a cross-body check using the pipe, but Reva grabs it and stops him. Owen barks at her, "What do you want?" And seethingly, she answers, "Justice." On his knees, Owen notices the bandage wrapped around Reva's midsection and drives his thumb, or maybe a finger or four, into the wound. Reva winces in agony as she doubles over. Then she quickly recovers and lays Owen out with a backhand. Owen lifts the pipe over his head defensively, while Reva cuts it in half in one fell swoop, and then tosses Owen off the catwalk in a crushing heap.
Maybe
And
perhaps explaining Owen's limp in A New Hope.
Oh, maybe. He goes down. I mean, there's a
Hard.
crunch there when he hits. Like,
Yeah.
like, good on the stuntman who did that.
Missed opportunity, though. Like, if there was ever a time to take somebody's hand, it's when it's jammed in one of your open wounds.
Hanging on by a thumb.
Yep. Keep that souvenir.
I guess. As Reva approaches the locked garage door, Owen shouts out, "Beru, she's coming!" Which is kind of funny because, Beru's not the only one on the other side of that door.
Mm-hmm.
Luke's in the same room, right?
Yeah, but he's still trying to maintain the illusion that Luke is not on premises.
Luke, we're going to have company.
Well, I'm going to talk about it here in a second. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Sliding the door open, Beru blindsides Reva with, it was so fast. This moment happened so fast, I couldn't actually see it. I don't know if it's a fist or the butt end of her rifle.
Yeah, I got the impression she punched her right in the face.
Clocks are like crazy mad. Like, I mean, you can see the look on her face when she's screaming at Luke to run or to go.
Mm-hmm.
She is like a mother unhinged. And I absolutely love her for that moment. Luke, already in motion, climbs out a hatch leading to the surface. So, question for you guys. Did Luke actually see her? And by her, I mean Reva.
Maybe.
I don't think he did. I don't think he did. And I think we are meant to believe that he did not hear she's coming.
Yeah. And if all he received was go.
Right.
No.
Owen's story is, now, Luke, the Tuskens are attacking farms.
Yeah.
So then there's the other component, and this is something that Kim and I talked about earlier today and yesterday, actually. Reva wearing a cloak. Not only does that serve to sort of inform us that, she's not completely turned, because the cloak's kind of Jedi-ish.
Yeah. No. Yeah. With the
but
bells.
does it not also serve Owen's story about the Tuskens attacking farms, that if Luke, let's say Luke did see her, that if all he saw was the darkened silhouette, that he could have mistaken her for a Tusken?
Oh, for sure.
You think?
It's possible.
Yeah.
Doesn't she have the lightsaber ignited as she walks in the room, though? Wouldn't that
I don't think she does.
Fill the room? I mean, there's a
If
red
you saw
glow
that,
from,
it's a giveaway.
Well, I guess that's it. Yeah. I mean,
and therefore,
well, no, you're right.
Time,
she does, because there's Beru laying on the floor.
Right. And so the first time Luke ever saw a red lightsaber was when he was 10, possibly.
Well, this is it. Did he? Because the first thing that Beru screams is go. And by the time anything else happens, we look over and he's halfway out the hatch already.
Yeah.
And that's why I question, did he see her? Because I think we're meant to believe that he didn't. And that maintains the mystery of when Ben hands him the Skywalker saber in A New Hope.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. All right. But you know what? I'll let you guys out there decide what you think. Let us know in the comments what you guys think of this sequence, because I'm still not sure exactly how I'm supposed to take this.
It's interesting because a lot of time has passed, even now, but especially when Luke is like 19, 20, when he gets the lightsaber. Yeah. Because Anakin, as a 10-year-old child, goes, "Ooh, that's a laser sword. That's the weapon of a Jedi. That's common knowledge to like a slave kid on a random backwater world." Whereas Luke is like, "Well, what's this?"
Yeah, has no idea. Right. No idea. Like, oh.
Yeah, but in the 10 years post this show or this episode,
right,
we're led to believe that, the Jedi, the Inquisitors, they're all gone.
Yeah.
And it's just now, faded away into myth and legend.
Well, at least one person in Facebook land says he was already halfway up the hatch.
That's a good bet, because when they do cut to him, all you see is his little arse scurrying up there. So,
well, and that's kind of where I'm at. Like, he doesn't actually see her face, and it maintains it doesn't break anything for us.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
It's maybe just a little bit kind of sloppy the way that it was handled. But you know what? Again, I'm okay.
What kid doesn't look back, though? There's that too. Like,
he does. So when he's running across the desert, he does look back. But by that time, she's just running after him.
That's right.
The lightsaber's off.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Luke, already in motion, climbs out a hatch leading to the surface. Now Reva, being singular of mind at this point, just throws Beru to the ground, walks past her as she tries to catch the boy. But Luke is already at full speed, and he's moving as fast as his legs will carry him away from the farm.
Much faster than Leia.
Well, yeah. He's taller. Which doesn't stop Reva from giving chase as she runs after him into the desert night. All right. Buried under a literal... Oh, what did I do? I feel like I've jumped ahead. Oh, no, I am in the right place. Buried under a literal mountain of rock, Ben struggles to keep it from crushing him. As he stands there near death, he's haunted by the voices of Anakin and Vader as his memories blend together. Admit you are beaten. You cannot run, Obi-Wan. I see through the lies of the Jedi. You're my enemy. You should have killed me when you had the chance. I do not fear the dark side. And finally, I am what you made me.
Mm-hmm.
Then, in a flooding memory montage of the Skywalker children, Ben finds his strength and resolve is renewed, and with an explosive blast of the Force, literally blows the crater he's standing in wide open and leaps out.
Amazing.
And that is why I say it's not just about them, it's about the kids.
It's like he's faced with his hubris, and that's what's almost defeats him, and then he remembers what his purpose is.
Yeah.
And then this is the moment. If he hasn't already, and I mean, he was doing very well in the duel, but if he hasn't already, this is the moment he completely reconnects with the Force.
See, I don't actually, I disagree with you on that.
Oh, yeah?
I think it's coming. I think it hasn't happened yet.
I would think I'm with Hank on this one.
Are you?
Because this moment, he's buried. He could die.
Sure.
He could give up just as easily, or now's the time to get up. Now's the time to go.
Oh, maybe.
Reconnect. Okay. Let's do this.
That's fair. That's very fair. As Vader makes his way back to the shuttle, he stops, seemingly at the presence that he just thought he snuffed out. Turning to look behind him, Ben is right there, and the fight is on again. But this time, Ben fights with a clarity of purpose that we have never seen before. Not even in his first encounter with Maul. His strikes aren't just deliberate, they are swift and precise, and he is at the pinnacle of his fighting form. Even caught off guard, Vader is still a powerful and deadly adversary, and he manages to block Ben with the Force. But to Vader, the Force is a tool to be used and dominated, whereas Ben has given into it like the living ally it is, and together, they hurled Vader like a child might discard a toy, hurling him several meters into one of the rocky monoliths and dropping him to his knees.
Yeah.
He's absolutely at the height of his Force ability. And I the whole, man, if we didn't get that the payoff with Qui-Gon at the end, this is the payoff to be mindful of the living Force, Obi-Wan.
Yep.
This is it.
Despite this is Obi's show, and you and I, Wes, and I think Andy is too. It's like just one of our favorite characters.
Yeah.
To see Vader on his knees.
Oh yeah.
Is something harrowing. It's just crazy.
Comment says, not just reconnect with the Force, but opens himself up completely to it. Yes, absolutely. So again, that we've talked about it before. I mean, how else does Ben have the insight to say, sometimes you control it, sometimes it controls you. And this, to me, this is fully as the commenter just said, to be completely open to it that way, where he's maybe not in the driver's seat right now.
Yeah.
No, a little bit. Yeah. A little bit, like the will of the forces. It controls your actions, right? Like,
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. The length of this episode, we did make the decision that we were going to split it up. So that's it for my half of the episode.
But we're not done.
We are not done. So, Andy, you're going to take the back half of the episode, and I get to be a passenger now.
All right. So, like we said, he just reconnected. And in a truly epic display of mastery over the Force, after he throws him into the wall, he proceeds to lift a barrage of boulders and stones, and with a flick of the wrist, he hurls them at the downed Sith Lord. And this moment was just, this is like parting the Red Sea.
Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, if this isn't the kind of there's the Christ analogy here coming up again. You'd be remiss not to mention the Rey analogy from this sequence that we saw in the Last Jedi.
Yeah, where she lifts the rocks out to get the back door open.
Tiny bit. It reminded me of Akira.
Oh yeah. The Rey thing, I'm totally okay with it. I am more than okay with it. I think that character is great. So,
Space Jesus, there we go.
I mean, this is
God mode.
God mode.
Clearly,
pretty much.
Yeah, we've never seen Obi this powerful. We have never seen him this powerful.
No.
This is one of the ones where I like 3, 4 in the morning stood up and went, "What?"
I just thought for this whole sequence, we've seen there is a ton of footage that shows Obi-Wan Kenobi specifically doing a lot of cool things with the Force. Nothing compares to what we got in this episode.
No,
I cannot think of another moment that was more like, oh my, what?
I think this is the flip side of the coin of last episode where Vader yanks the ship down and just rips it apart.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I made the Maul analogy because I thought, at that time when Qui-Gon was killed, Obi-Wan was very much the Anakin of that story.
Yeah, he was still Padawan.
And he just lost his master. And that he's not the wise Jedi master that he is right now. He's fearful. He's, all those things that he's not supposed to be. And yeah. I mean, sure, it was, incredibly focused because he had to be. It was a survival situation. But this is something altogether different.
Yeah. But this moment here, unable to shield himself from the onslaught, the rocks just continue to fly forward. And Obi-Wan, he slowly moves forward as well, closing the distance, just pummeling Anakin mercilessly. And perhaps those words that Anakin gave to him during that lesson about mercy were not lost on him.
Oh,
sometimes no mercy is what you need to win.
That's an interesting thought. I never connected that.
I think that is only a momentary, just display, because once he's close enough, Vader, he sees that opportunity to strike back.
Right.
And he swings his saber, but Obi-Wan's ready and answers back with his own blade strike. And they begin to circle again and pushes him back into the rocks. And then
pushes him through a rock. Actually, there's a scene where he pushes, like they both go right through a rock. Like they're not even, Vader's less than human, but like they're not even human. Like these are like just living embodiments of the Force now, moving mountains.
Sure.
Like physical objects mean nothing to them anymore.
It's interesting that you say
like
that.
Gods fighting.
If the light side and the dark side, almost like the oh my God, the sister, the father, and the brother. It's almost like if the Force was to fight itself, it might look like this.
Right.
Yeah. But we shift back and. Elsewhere on Tatooine, Reva's still making her way to the foothills, continuing her search for Luke. And she pauses to look around, but sees no signs of life. And meanwhile, Luke, he's stealthily making his way forward. And then we cut back again, and we're back on the moon. And Vader and Obi-Wan, they're continuing to trade blows until Obi-Wan gets close enough, and he smashes the control box on Vader's chest.
With the butt end. Yeah.
This... I think is him pulling back because mercilessly raining down boulders.
Sure.
But now he's not going for that could have been a kill shot.
Absolutely could have.
But no, he goes for the hilt and multiple times smashes it. So he's just, incapacitating him.
I think it's almost worse for Vader to be beaten that way. That whole, you should have killed me thing.
Yeah. and it would almost be like a humiliation.
Well, that's it. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, no, you're not ready to be a master yet.
He's attacking parts that are specifically Vader.
Yeah.
Like the breath control.
Yeah.
And in a minute. Mm-hmm.
It does go back to that whole like, oh, you had him. Why didn't you just do the whole job?
But Obi-Wan, he force throws another boulder at him and sidesteps him, and again leaping using a little bit of that high ground jump. He lands a strike across his back, and now visibly wounded, Vader hits the ground hard.
Yeah, like you get a good like out of him in this one. Yeah,
right across the top of the back there, and now visibly winded, Vader hits the ground, and he's struggling up and lurches forward, but Obi-Wan's already ready and repels his strike by force pushing Vader backwards again. So he's got Vader on the ropes, and Obi-Wan, he rushes forward, and leaping from a rock pile, he lands a downward strike across Vader and rips that helmet open. And the visuals are awesome on this.
Oh man,
you didn't happen to build in a slide from Revenge of the Sith, did you?
I did.
When he's laying there on the side of the lava flow,
I did not build that one.
I would have loved to do a side by side comparison here to see the half a head next to the shriveled grape of Anakin on the surgical table. Like,
true.
Like the fact that we just watched Obi-Wan slice the helmet off. By the way, that's the second time this has happened to him.
We got that.
Or no, it's the first. The next one will be the second one, won't it?
Yeah. It happens more often than not in the comics. His costume gets rended quite a bit. He's very vulnerable at first. Like he's just learning how to use his body a lot.
Yeah.
One of the things the Emperor sends him to a world that's very dangerous, and basically it's his Sith trials. But he's forbidden from using the Force or using his lightsaber. So he's got to like punch giant beasts out and stuff. And by the time he gets back to the Emperor, he's missing his limbs again, and his outfit is just rended.
At the end of the film, at the end of Return of the Jedi, when we're looking at Sebastian Shaw's exposed face, and we see the gash on his head, are we saying that wound just occurred right now?
I'm thinking so.
I think so.
I have to.
Yeah,
I got a comparison slide coming up.
You do? Okay, perfect.
It's pretty strong indication.
Yeah.
Vader. It talks about him nearly getting defeated. Like there's a comic too where Tarkin hunts Vader. It's a request, like a friendly request.
Oh, really? Tarkin hunts Vader.
Hunts him.
Interesting.
Like, I want to hunt you. I'm a hunter, and I'd be honored.
That's interesting because that's a Legends thing too, eh?
Yeah.
Tarkin being a hunter, yeah.
And it's like when Vader is kind of stripped of these, he's distracted from being able to wield the Force properly because he's using the Force to keep himself alive at this point.
Okay.
So, exactly what's here, like he's using every ounce of his ability to basically breathe and stay alive.
Yeah.
There's no fight.
I totally got that.
At all.
Yeah, I've very much got that from the, it's the same labored, wheezy breathing that we get from Jedi.
And Rebels.
Yeah.
But with Vader on the ground, Ben, he takes a step back and still poised and ready for any retaliation.
Yeah.
But Vader remains down, and sparks still flying from his damaged helmet. He lifts his head up, and Obi-Wan is shocked at what he sees underneath.
Yeah.
And then Vader, he rises, and with that labored breath, he tells Obi-Wan, Anakin is gone. I am what remains. And tears, they well up in Ben's eyes. And he tells him, I'm sorry, Anakin, for all of it.
Yeah.
But coldly, Vader stares back at him, and as his voice modulator starts cutting in and out, he responds, I am not your failure, Obi-Wan. You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. Ben, he still stares, and the blue light is like reflecting in his eyes, and they're just, you could see the tears. And Vader bluntly states, I did.
And he smiles.
Yeah.
There's an important piece here. I don't know if you got it a better one, Andy. There's it's a couple seconds, maybe even just 1 or 2 seconds where they have that conversation. And you need to remember there's quite a bit of distance between those two characters, and they intentionally light Hayden's face in blue light
for half a second.
Yeah. And then when he gets to the I did.
Yeah.
and it flips back to red, and you're like, that. When I said that I disagreed with you, Hank, to me that was the moment where Ben finally let go. All that attachment gone.
Yeah. I agree with the attachment. I don't agree with him connecting with the Force.
Well, that's fair. Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, I watched this thing like 9, maybe 10 times now. And while the voice is modulating, the color is shifting. So when he's speaking in Anakin's voice, it's just that blue purple.
A little bit more blue,
and when it's Vader's voice, it's that red.
A little
purple.
more red. Yeah.
And the smile gets me every time watching like him when he admits it, like, and again, absolution. He's absolving Obi-Wan of the blame. And he's like, you didn't create what I am. I created what I am. And he smiles under the mask, and oh my God.
Suddenly, from a certain point of view, becomes the gospel truth.
Yep.
I agree with the Facebook user there who said he absolves Ben in that moment.
Yeah.
But as he says that, he doesn't just stop there. He continues the same way. I will destroy you. Mm-hmm. And it's in that moment that the blue kind of fades away.
Right.
And we get this shifting again, right?
Yeah.
As he struck him first, the rage eye from the Sith isn't really apparent.
It's not as prominent.
Yeah, but by the time he says, and I will destroy you, rage is fully
full
back.
on, yeah.
Yeah, to the point I thought that the eye wasn't turned in that moment. Like,
at the beginning when it's first cut off, I don't think it was turned.
Is that right?
I thought it was a brown, like Hayden's eye, and then by the end of that, it's fully a yellow Sith eye.
Yeah, the hate is fully there again.
Yeah,
and you do get that exact same moment in Rebels when Vader and Ahsoka meet, and Ahsoka rends Vader's right side of the mask.
The other side of the helmet.
Oh, yeah. And it's real cool. I'd love to give credit to who pointed this out, and I can't recall.
Right down to the same fragment.
Right. But
his exact same cut lines.
When she says Anakin, and his eye is brown or blue, whatever color it is, and then it changes through it. But it's not lost on me that Ahsoka can take the right side of his mask, and Obi can take the left side of his mask, but it's Luke who takes the whole mask.
Takes it off. Yeah. Oh, so poetic.
Yeah, man.
So poetic.
Heartbroken, Ben says, then my friend is truly dead.
Is truly dead, yeah.
And as Vader struggles to stand, his lightsaber ignited, Ben turns and says, goodbye, Darth.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Just a simple little thing, but I mean, why does Ben call him Darth in A New Hope? Is that the age old, is Darth a name or a title?
Yep.
And you know what? I mean, I guess that goes to say that Ben doesn't really...
He doesn't acknowledge him as Anakin anymore.
No.
Yeah. But he departs, leaving Vader alone in the darkness, and with only the light from his lightsaber, Vader cries out, Obi-Wan. And then we get a bird's eye view, and we see Vader collapse to the ground, still clutching his saber.
Yeah.
And again, he screams it, Obi-Wan! But it's the most disturbing vocal harmonization, though, between Hayden Christensen and James Earl Jones'
that voice modulator.
With some of that digital distortion going on.
Have you seen the supercut?
So creepy.
There's a supercut on YouTube. I don't know, it's a supercut, but it's Obi-Wan followed immediately by Kenobi from Maul, and they cut it together to say his whole name. It's pretty great.
Nice.
I kind of had this moment where it's like when they fought on Mustafar, the Emperor could sense that Vader was in trouble.
Yeah.
What's the Emperor thinking right now? Does the Emperor sense that his apprentice is injured?
Maybe, but I don't think he's in like mortal danger.
Not mortally wounded.
No. He's down, but not out.
As you say, Hank, the comics would suggest that he's been here before. This is nothing new.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
This is just more personal. It's, if anything, this is where, and again, in the comics, I can't stress it enough, guys. Oh my goodness, the comics. When Vader is meditating on the hate and the dark side of the Force, he's in his astral form, if you will, in his, it's like another realm where he meditates. His body is black and red writhing worms in the shape of a human being with yellow eyes, except his limbs that have been taken are blue energy.
Oh, wow.
And as he's trying to like push that out. And at one point he becomes like all writhing worms, and there's little blue butterflies that flicker around him.
Right.
And this is like Vader absolutely clipping any last vestige of Anakin out of him.
Sure. Yeah.
Coming in from Sean, Vader is always getting his ass kicked. He's only ever kicked Luke's ass.
It's kind of true. Ochi of Bestoon kicks Vader's ass at one point.
Sure. And all we know about Ochi of Bestoon, for all the non-comic book people, he's just a corpse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we follow the shuttle out, and
yeah,
off Ben goes. So you guys had already
did? Okay, you got it.
You guys had already touched on this and the other thing, but a couple of things to point out. Duel gives us a clarification of where that scar came from in Return of the Jedi.
Okay, so we are saying that is.
I believe so.
I firmly, in my head canon, that is a direct result of fighting Ben.
Yeah, because if you look at the strike from where it starts on the helmet, that's where it started on his head.
And that's why I say, like, going back to the Mustafar thing, like when he's like shriveled up and burnt and grape like, even on the surgical table, you kind of see their shriveled skin, but you don't see that looks like a gash.
Yeah.
Or fragments of the helmet cut him or something else.
And even in Empire, when you first see it and they're lowering the helmet down, it extends almost to the back of
all the way to the back. Yeah.
So indicative of an overhead strike to the top of the head and down the face for sure.
Yeah. And then, like you guys had said, Ahsoka taking out the left side or the right side, and
I find it uncanny that they've gone back to Rebels and they've emulated the same cutout. It's the same lines, across the nose piece and the eye piece.
Other thing to point out here too, the cheek scars that we see in Return of the Jedi
on Sebastian Shaw.
Yeah. Do we think those are as a result of like some of the sparking maybe getting further burned across the face?
Oh, I never thought about that, but possible.
Maybe
it's when he's down, it's like he's literally bleeding sparks. They're just pouring out of his face, right?
Yeah.
There is one thing to mention here before we move on. Like looking at that shot there at the end of Return of the Jedi, like it shouldn't be lost on anybody that, like you said, Hank, before, when he's not out doing the Emperor's bidding, he basically lives inside his bacta tank.
Yeah.
When we see him in Revenge of the Sith on the surgical table, he is far more wrinkly than he is here.
Yeah.
So clearly the bacta has had some effect.
Yeah, his eyebrows grow back.
It's only taken 20 years.
It's a slow crawl to eyebrows.
There you go.
Oh, that's funny. I'm sorry.
All good. So we switch again, though, and back on Tatooine, Reva's continuing to stalk Luke, who's still making his way out.
Reva, the Tusken Raider.
Yes, Reva Raider. But he's going across a rocky ledge and knocks some sand loose, alerting Reva, and she uses the Force to pull Luke down to her position. And as Luke cries out, we cut to Ben, who senses that Luke is now in danger. So it's kind of that inverse thing where the Emperor senses Vader, but now Obi-Wan senses Luke.
Yeah.
But he throttles the craft forward, Lola chirps, and they quickly make the jump to light speed, and help is on the way, but will it be too late?
Well, we've already talked the hyperspace thing out, so we know he's going to get there in breakneck time. That hyperdrive. That's a 0.1 hyperdrive.
Yeah, it's not a Corellian. No, it is a Corellian.
I think it's a Corellian ship. I honestly do.
But the tumble down the rocky embankment, it's rendered Luke unconscious, and she stalks forward. So again, he doesn't see that blade
and doesn't see her.
Yeah,
no.
Yeah, she ignites her saber, and looking down at the helpless boy, suddenly she sees her young self. And this is her full circle moment. She's come so far to hunt down Vader. Yeah. She's about to become him.
Yeah.
She is where he was on the night of Order 66.
Yeah, absolutely is. Yeah. Or she is. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They are? She is.
She is.
Right.
Yeah. Her mind flashes of Anakin, Vader, her younger self, and Luke. And they're all these images are rushing past her, and still struggling, though. She still raises that saber to strike, but she hesitates. And before we can see what happens, we cut away, and we find Obi-Wan just coming out of hyperspace above the planet. and his ship lands right at the moisture farm, and he darts out of the craft and hears the voices of Owen and Beru calling for Luke in the distance.
Anybody else here think they might have used the original voices? Because they sound a heck of a lot alike.
Like,
Luke,
yeah.
Maybe
Possibly.
some modulation.
Well,
that's
in the same way,
more,
like,
emphasis on it.
Okay, I know it's coming up, and it's a big thing. It's a big deal. But in the same vein that Ewan McGregor, people go nuts every time Ewan McGregor says a line, "Hello there." Even Ewan McGregor is like, I don't like doing it out of, like, I just don't do it. Like, it's a party. I don't do it at parties. And even Ewan McGregor says that's an Alec Guinness thing.
Yeah.
So I can see them trying to emulate the original actors. Sure.
For sure.
But arriving at Owen and Beru's position, Ben questions, where is he? And Beru says he's gone. Ben, he says, I'll search in the Dune Sea till we find him. But Beru calls him back. And on the horizon, we see a cloaked figure approaching, holding a small body.
It's Tusken Raider.
Could be. We don't know at this point. But no, it is Reva, and she's carrying the motionless body of Luke.
You mean it's not a Great Dragon Pearl?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She lays his body down before Owen and Beru, and looking up at Ben, you know, their stunned gaze stares at Luke because they don't know if he's alive or dead. And finally, he takes a breath and starts to, like, move. And,
like the...
and all three of them breathe a heavy sigh of relief. Turns out Reva has chosen a different path. Owen and Beru, they rush up and scoop him up. And where am I at here? There it is. Owen gives Reva a last look, and they head back to the farm. And still on her knees, Reva begins to cry, and Ben approaches, and she looks up and tells Ben, I couldn't do it. I've failed them. He killed them all, and I couldn't do it. But
so
Ben
I thought something else was going to happen here. I don't know. You guys familiar with the Legends version of Maul's death?
No.
So it's very similar to what happens in Rebels, but except that he tracks Luke down on the farm and is hunting him, much like Reva does here. And he duels Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan soundly defeats him, but then Obi-Wan spares his life. And Owen shoots him in the head with a blaster.
Oh, wow.
And I thought that we might get
That's
that
the way
here.
it was going. Oh,
yeah.
That would have been interesting. Well, it definitely would have not would seal the fate, not a soft pilot for her.
Yeah.
right. And rumors that they changed the end too to accommodate
that it was much darker. Yeah, you are right on that. Oh, I wonder if that, to be a fly on the wall and to know like what changes were made.
Yeah. But Ben, he kneels down and tells her, you haven't failed them. By showing mercy, you have given them peace, and you have honored them. Sorrowfully, though, she asks Ben, have I become him?
Oh.
And he replies, no, you have chosen not to. Who you become now is up to you.
He's even speaking like a Jedi again.
Yeah.
And you can see there's a shift in her eyes right here, like from that complete sorrow to a look forward towards an unknown future.
I just want to tip my hat to Moses Ingram in this episode for a character who's been so criticized for 5 episodes up till now, whose only emotion has been to have this complete like vulnerability that she's showing here. Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
In this moment, she's back on that platform.
Yes.
She is that kid, the youngling with a hopeful future.
I was just really, really impressed to see how believable, I was sold on the tears. And I mean, it's one of those things that actors do. Some actors are really good at it. Some are not so good at it. And she is clearly, she's got it.
Yeah.
And here at the end is Obi-Wan finally rescuing her.
Yeah. I was just going to say
Yeah. The metaphorical rescue, I guess.
Yeah. It finally came. But from beneath her cloak, she pulls out her saber. And with one last look, she tosses it on the ground. Ben stands and he helps her to her feet and says, now you're free. And with a sigh, we both are. So
is there a metaphor here? I mean, Rey did the same thing with the Skywalker sabers. on the sands of Tatooine, put them down, and I mean Rey buried them. But
yeah, she gave them like a burial. This is just
Sure.
I am discarding this inquisitorious
yeah,
lifestyle.
yeah. Do you think that she will? I mean, if we never see her again, what do you think happened?
I don't know.
Do you think
Does
that
she go off
does
and
she
live?
continue to be a Force user? Does she put all of that aside and just live a quiet life?
Well, that's one of Lauren's sort of hopes for the character, is that even if we don't get to see it, that she partners up with someone cool and kind of hops around the galaxy trying to atone for her crimes. Trying to find peace in what she's done by basically doing what Haji and Roken are doing.
And Roken are doing.
Maybe she even becomes an integral part of the path.
Yeah, that's an interesting
That'd
thought
be a good
too.
spot for her.
What about pairing up with one of the names that we saw on the wall, like a Sira Junda?
Yeah, or becoming the master to Corran Horn.
Well, that's
we could get crazy, guys.
Yeah.
But we shift to the lava fields of Mustafar, and we see Vader's castle standing tall at the center of the frame. And inside, we find Vader on his throne speaking to a cloaked figure via a holo display. And he relays that they have probes tracking every system in range, and they will destroy everything in their path until he is found.
He's an angry man in this scene.
He is. We shift views, though, and we find out it is indeed the Emperor himself in that hologram. And he remarks, "You seem agitated, my friend." But Vader coldly states he will not evade me again. And this is where he says, Palpatine questions him, "If your thoughts are clear on this, perhaps your feelings for your old master have left you weakened." And there's your veiled threat, right? He continues, "If your past cannot be overcome," and he just trails off there.
Right, leaves it hanging, right?
Yeah.
It's so quickly, though, as I said before, Vader's like, "We'll go through everything and it'll never happen." And then it just nothing. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
Just that
this is a veiled threat, right?
You get master and apprentice from the Jedi relationship, but this is like master and dog.
Yeah.
Right. So, does anybody here think that they dialed back Palpatine's face too much?
Nope.
He looks He looks more in line with the Empire Strikes Back Redux.
Yep. I
always thought that they might have went too heavy in Revenge of the Sith for my taste.
I agree with that as well. Yeah. So here's another question, right? I mean, if Vader spent a bunch of time in the back of the tank, did the Emperor as well?
There you go.
Did the Emperor, take long back to bats to try and get his face to, maybe
in Rebels he appears several times as Palpatine as refrigerated holograms. Yeah.
But as the Emperor trails off, Vader he finishes. Kenobi means nothing. And Palpatine, he cracks a small smile at this, and Vader continues, "I serve only you, my master."
My master.
And with that, the Emperor's hologram fades out, leaving Vader alone. And as the camera pans back, for the first time in the series, we hear those familiar Imperial theme notes. Then,
the Imperial march.
Yeah. Then the camera cuts to black. But we're not done. No, we fade in on a lush. Yeah. We fade into a lush green planet.
And, by the way, there was about 3 or 4 moments where I was like, I kept shuffling, scooching forward on my chair in anticipation of getting up to turn off the TV, and it just kept not ending.
Keep going. We're not done yet. But no, as we pan up, we find that it's Alderaan, and inside the palace, we find little Leia home safe again, and she's getting herself ready. No attendants this time.
No, I noticed that. No handmaidens.
Yeah, detail by detail, she prepares herself, and as her mother enters, she begins to tell Leia that they don't want to keep her father waiting, but Breya stops because she's already ready to go. And Breya looks her over and questions, "Is that a holster?" in reference to Tala's holster that she's now wearing.
Well, did anybody expect there's no young lady, you're not wearing that kind of thing?
Maybe.
I did.
Yeah, for sure.
I did.
But then it's a wonderful evolution for the character there.
Yeah.
Small, but I love it.
Like you say, this is not the same Leia from the beginning episode. And Breya leans in and she tells Leia, "I love it," and gives her a beaming smile, which Leia immediately returns. And they rush off to the landing platform just as a ship is about to touch down. And on the landing platform, Bail, he's caught off guard by this as well. And she looks up at him and says, "You said there were many ways to lead." And Bale, he responds, well, looks like I was right.
Yep.
And she goes on to tell him, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to want to change a few things. And he leans down and tells her, then we'll change them together.
You kind of wonder, did he remain as the senator for Alderaan right up until she came into office?
I would think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Highly
And, like,
likely.
her taking more of a charged role here, she's in learning now. She's like fully committed to it.
You feel like the political structure of Alderaan is similar to that of Naboo, that the reigning monarch,
Passes to the next one.
Brea is the queen, but he's the senator.
Yeah.
When Padme became the senator, it was, oh dear Lord, I can't think of her name. The Queen Jamila.
Right.
She couldn't be the queen and the senator at the same time, but one is the ruling monarch, the other is the senator.
Yeah.
An elected monarch too.
Yeah.
But Leia, she looks to Bale and asks, so who is it today? More cousins? And Bale says, not exactly. And turning her gaze to the ship, Obi-Wan appears at the top of the ramp, and her face lights up. And then as he comes down the ramp, Lola flies out, and her face like double lights up.
Yeah.
And she cries out Lola and runs forward. And Ben says, who am I to separate a young lady and her droid?
All I could say in this, I'm like, chopped liver? What the hell?
It reminded me when she snubs Chewie at the end of The Force Awakens to give Rey a hug, a girl she's never met.
God.
It reminded me of that. Oh, she's
Yeah.
got a propensity for snubbing people important in her life.
She
Okay,
does.
no problem.
But Obi-Wan, he strides over and embraces Bale and then shakes hands with Brea. And she thanks him for saving Leia. And Bale, he states, we can never repay you. But he looks towards Leia, who's, reconnecting with Lola. And he says she's already done that.
What's interesting is Ben's dress is, almost suggestive that he came directly here.
Probably.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just to make sure she got there.
Yeah. Like, do you think that he went home first? Because they make a point of, we're going to see it here in a second, but they make a point of showing the cave again.
No, I don't think so. I think he's
Right.
still
I think he's
got
he came
just
right
stopping
here.
off.
Vader
Yeah.
sweat
Yeah.
on him.
Yeah, because that outfit, it's dirty. Those clothes are like dirty.
Mhm.
Like, dude,
Like they've been buried in rocks.
like have a shower, dude. Do some laundry.
Space laundry.
Laundry in the desert.
Space Jesus will get it clean.
I'll just take the dirt out with the force.
There you go. But Bale, he goes on to tell Ben that he's fearful for Leia's future. The Empire grows stronger and bolder. But without hesitation, Ben tells him if they ever need his help again, they know where to find him.
Yeah.
So Bale shakes Ben's hand and tells him, let's hope that day never comes. And Ben nods in agreement. So there's your flip moment too, right? Like at the beginning, I don't do that anymore. It's not me. Find someone else. It's like, nope, you know where to find me.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ben, he turns and walks towards Leia, who asks, what will you do now? And Ben asks her, what do you think I should do? And cheeky as ever, Leia tells Ben, you should sleep. And they both share a hearty laugh.
Well, they're not the only ones that laugh, because I was like, nah, that's good.
Yeah. And Ben tells her, I think you're right.
Yeah.
But then he takes a knee and looking down at the little princess, he begins, when I said I didn't know your parents, and he kind of trails off.
I got real like, like, I knew it was going to be some kind of emotional thing, but I got like nervous. Like, is he going to, like, how much and what is he going to tell her? Because this could backfire real bad.
Yeah, this could break canon.
Yeah.
But no, he doesn't. He goes on to tell her, you are wise, discerning, kind-hearted. These are qualities that came from your mother. But you're also passionate and fearless, forthright, and these gifts are from your father. Both were exceptional people who bore an exceptional daughter. And he says he wishes he could tell her more, but Leia turns her head towards Bale and Brea and says, it's okay. You don't have to.
I think there's an important part here that we're missing, is that the first words are Princess Leia Organa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very definitive. That's who you are. And she acknowledges that by looking past him and saying, I know.
Yeah. Like, I know I have adopted parents, but these are my parents.
Yeah. So, it's great for her sense of identity.
Yeah.
At the same time, I get the impression that he's talking about both sets of parents simultaneously.
Yeah. Well, man, I never thought about that, but that totally makes sense to me too. Now we got to know more about We got to have more with just them.
The Bale show. Bale and Brea.
Seriously, where's that political thriller we've been waiting for?
It's on.
I have heard that Jimmy Smits is back for Andor.
Nice.
Well, and why not? I mean, he was a part of it in that as well.
Yeah. But she goes on to say thank you, and with a little sadness in her eyes, she says, "Will I ever see you again?" And Ben replies, "Maybe someday, if you ever need help from a tired old man."
Tired old man.
Yeah. And Leia, she snickers at that. But Ben, he shifts into a serious tone and he tells her, "We must be careful. No one must know, or it could endanger them both." And then Leia, she leaps forward and gives Ben the hugest hug. And again, exhibiting that wisdom beyond her years, she tells Ben, "Goodbye, Obi-Wan." Like she almost knows.
Yeah. And that's the moment for all those, for all the haters out there that, all the memes about, hey, remember that time we romped around the galaxy? Right. You know what? You guys can go and eat it because it was
covered their asses.
Yeah. Like, do you
expertly.
not think that people who are writing this stuff, have no idea of what's going on?
And the people that don't let it play out to its natural conclusion.
Yes.
Who are just jumping, like they broke it already and don't let them come to the conclusion, fix it.
Right.
Yeah. But Ben, he looks at her and gives her a goodbye and a proper legacy line. "May the Force be with you."
Mm-hmm.
I love the use of Leia's theme in this moment.
Yeah.
It's so emotional.
Again, everything's coming full circle with now the full themes are being played.
And the fact that they played the Force theme when he says that too, to get up and walk away. And then remember that the Force theme was originally written to be Obi-Wan Kenobi's theme.
Yeah. And at the very beginning of his conversation, they play the first few notes of Padme and Anakin's theme too.
Yeah.
But Ben, he rises and gives a nod to Bale and Brea, who return the sentiment. And Ben turns toward the ship, but Leia's still holding on, and they loosen their grip and finally let go.
Right.
And with a final smile, Ben boards his craft, and he looks back briefly to see Leia running back to her adoptive parents.
Yeah.
Brea leans in and gives her a hug, and we see that Lola has found a new home in Tala's holster.
Mm-hmm.
That's cute. I quite like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But with one last fleeting glance from both sides, Bale and family head back into the palace, and Ben's ship, it lifts off into the air. And after a snap cut, we're back on Tatooine, and we find Ben packing up his belongings. And he pauses a moment on the T-16 Skyhopper, picks it up with his gear, and gives one last look around the cave, and then he walks out.
Those old toys, they don't make them anymore.
Yeah, they're worth a lot of money.
Dressed in his classic Jedi outfit from Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. But we switch again, and we're on the Lars moisture farm, and Owen is moving an urn around, and as he looks out, he sees Ben approaching on his Eopie, and Owen sets down the urn and moves towards Ben. Meanwhile, little Luke is working away polishing some machinery, and Ben, he dismounts and walks towards Owen. And this look here is strikingly similar to the Sideshow Collectibles Nomad.
What are you talking about? The Desert Nomad that I like screamed for at the beginning? Yeah.
This one was released last year by Sideshow Collectibles.
I'll tell you, I mean, the figure is inspired from the statue that came out years before, which, as we said back in part when they were on Daiyu, so that's part 2. That is almost certainly the head sculpt that they used to get Alec Guinness into the series. Man, I was so satisfied with this. I cannot tell you how. I mean, okay, it didn't have the clone armor backpack, or the rifle, but I gotta say, if this is as close as we're getting to Desert Nomad, I'm totally in. Right down to the fingerless gloves too, by the way.
And that's how he's dressed in the like when we meet him in the Star Wars comics is.
Yeah,
Luke finds one of his journals and reads stories about himself actually, cool. and Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan is definitely dressed exactly like that.
I love it
in the comics.
I absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm.
Owen asks, "What are you doing here? I thought you were going to keep your distance." And Ben replies, "I will." And he goes on to tell Owen that he was right. Luke just needs to be a boy. The future will take care of itself. And the only protection he needs now, Owen, is you and Beru. He says, "Take good care of him," and he turns to leave. And you can see Owen going back and forth on this. But as Ben nears the Eope, he calls out and says, "You want to meet him?" And Luke looks up and sees this bearded stranger approaching, toy in hand. Side note here. We've talked about Leia's outfits playing tribute to the future looks throughout the whole thing.
Luke's just wearing
thing is going on with Luke.
Luke's just wearing a miniature version of what he's worn the whole time. Yeah,
exactly.
I want to talk about just for a second here, because the line, "he just needs to be a boy," there's been so much emphasis over the years about the Skywalker saga. In fact, that the 9 films collectively are referred to as the Skywalker saga. And Disney has gone on to make like overtures about putting the Skywalker thing aside. And even Rise of Skywalker alluded to, you don't have to be from a bloodline. You don't have to have a lineage to be a Jedi.
Right.
The line from Obi-Wan, "he just needs to be a boy." Does that not speak to that on some level?
A little bit.
Fully. And I
think we know who he is. So,
and one of the things, like with, Obi-Wan connecting fully with the Force, and I mean like alive and integrated with the Force.
Yeah.
You get the, while the Yoda is always talking about always in motion is the future, and it's difficult to see. I get the impression that fully connected like Obi-Wan is, that he can see the future fairly clearly.
Yeah.
And then knows like the future is going to play itself out. Part of the reason he chooses to let himself die at Vader's hand is because he can see clearly where
it's going to go from here.
It wasn't very clear before.
That's a good. That's a great online argument. If you're ever looking for a discourse there, folks, that you want to get into, go and ask a bunch of people. Did Vader kill him, or did Ben just let him hit him?
In the novel, Vader
we know
outright slays him.
Slays him. Yeah, it's a much different story, but thematically it works far better in the sense that we just see him hold up his saber and that's it. It works much better thematically that way.
Well, and it cements further.
Yeah,
it cements further when he says, "When last we met, you were the master.
I was the
now
learner. Now I'm the master."
Yeah, because
Only
really,
of evil,
he just schooled him.
Yeah.
But next up, we get Luke. He smiles a curious smile, and Ben delivers the line that we've been aching to hear. "Hello there."
And there it is, the Alec Guinness line, I might add.
Yep. And that's all we get.
What's that?
Made me cry.
Did you? You did?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
How that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's
man.
awesome.
Yeah, I was alone in a room.
I was grinning like a villain, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, he smiles down at Luke, and that's
Have you seen the cut of all 3 hello there's synchronized?
No.
I'll send it to you. I got it.
The one with Grievous?
Yeah, Grievous.
Actually, I think you might have sent it to me.
Oh, maybe I did. I think I might have. Oh, I did send it in What Productions from TikTok.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right.
I screen captured it, but it's Alec Guinness from A New Hope. It's Revenge of the Sith and this all synced up.
I truly feel like this iteration, talking about the voice thing, like we'd already sort of posited, did Beru and Owen's voice, did they use clips or did they emulate? I really feel like this is the closest to Alec Guinness he's been.
Well,
I just love the way he said
that
it.
He revisited, he actually had trouble finding the voice.
Really?
From Revenge of the Sith.
It's been a while.
So he spent more time this time studying Alec Guinness, and it certainly shows.
Yeah. I agree with you on that, 100%.
But we don't get any further conversation, and it cuts to Ben riding across the desert.
This is where I started to panic. I literally started to panic. I'm like, he's riding off into the sunset. The credits are about to roll. There's one more payoff that needs to happen. Damn it.
Yeah, Lauren called it crazy, like spot on.
Oh yeah.
I had predicted, and I had sent you the thing in the chat. I had predicted that it would occur in mid-fight.
Yes, I remember you saying that.
Yeah, and I thought that maybe Vader would even hear too and add to his own hubris. But
there's something to be said for that, and that would be one of those perfect rhymes that would rhyme with the sequel trilogy in Rey, I Am All the Jedi, as they are communicating to her.
And that's kind of why I should write for Star Wars too.
But riding alone we get a bird's eye view and Ben and the trail of Eope tracks going behind him.
Yep.
And as he nears a Rocky Mountain pass, he squints as he sees something come into focus. And recognizing that figure anywhere, Ben calls out, Master Qui-Gon? And indeed it is Liam Neeson returning as Qui-Gon Jinn.
Who's, I just want to say, I don't remember him being this jovial.
Yeah, because he spins around and he tells Ben, took you long enough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Ben, he smiles and he says, I was beginning to think you would never show up. But Qui-Gon tells him, I was always here, Obi-Wan. You were just not ready to see.
Not ready to see. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
How'd you make it with the Skywalker kid, by the way?
Yeah. And he tells Ben they have a long ways to go.
So I love that line. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. We have a long way to go.
Yeah.
So like now Ben's training can continue.
Yep.
If there's going to be a season 2,
We follow that.
I mean, first of all, I just want to say, I don't believe for a second that Liam Neeson was on set with Ewan McGregor at any point in the production of this. I feel like, here's your mark, Liam, look here at the tennis ball, and he just did his thing. But man, if we could get these two back in a room together on a stage somewhere,
Yeah.
I would love to see some of that. Even if it's just a one-off, okay, episode 1 begins, and Obi-Wan has been training under Master Qui-Gon for months, days, months, weeks, years, or whatever.
Yeah.
Certainly.
More of that, please. Yes.
But, he tells him we got a ways to go. And the Force Ghost, he turns and walks forward, disappearing. And Ben smiles and follows in the direction that he's pointed him in. And we get a far back shot of Ben riding into the mountain pass.
Riding off into the sunsets.
In sunsets. And we finally do cut to black.
Got all the payoffs that I really
3
wanted.
epilogues.
Yeah. Got all the payoffs. Got some things that I never fully expected. Here's a quick one for you. Do you think he sold the ship and used the money to buy the house?
Interesting.
Maybe.
He certainly doesn't have the ship anywhere. I mean, he needs to find a ship.
If he's going to have another adventure. Because that begs the question. If we're going to get a season 2, and right now it's up in the air, we don't know if there's going to be one. As it stands right now, in the whole, this is a visual medium, so show don't tell. Ben Kenobi has a starship stashed away somewhere right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
But it's got to go away by New Hope because you can't
That's right.
access it.
That's right.
So if we get season 2.
Christ, by the time we get to A New Hope, he doesn't even have an Eope.
Yeah.
I mean, you leave that
Maybe
thing for 5 minutes in the desert and Jawas are all over.
Jawas, yeah.
Yep.
They didn't jarn that thing.
Yeah.
But here's one of those things where it could be a stretch.
Yeah.
But, we've never shied away from that. And during the credits, in the star pattern.
Oh, yeah. You talked about this in our chat, and I was like, I don't see it, but you know what? You should totally bring it up.
So do you see any sort of patterns, I guess, within the dark space? Like
I suppose now that you say that, now that I'm looking at it, because maybe it's the contrast ratio. I don't know.
But I'll put this one to our audience because this is kind of what I see.
Yeah, sure. Oh, and now that when you put it up there like that, yeah. Can you go back one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I kind of do see that. Not immediately, but
no, but
I certainly can't see it on my phone.
On my 4.5-inch screen.
I mean, there's another scene that I guess, in the same vein, and I don't want you to cut back to it. It'd be hard to find, but when Vader's in his throne room just after the Emperor, cuts the transmission off and they pan back, and there's the 2 little red slits of the viewports from his throne room, but the clouds form almost eyes, and it reminded me of the inverse of the putting the helmet on him in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Looking down
If you rewatch that little pan forward again and think of that, wow, it's very, very similar.
Yeah, because we know there's nothing that's not intentional.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could this just be like a visual artist having a bit of fun in the post credit?
Maybe. I mean, look at the name things that we saw. Like there was what was the one, Hank? You sent me one, Henry.
Right,
was
Henry.
that name Henry carved in the wall?
Yeah.
Right, Henry Jones.
Well, that's where my mind went immediately too.
Yeah.
So it could possibly be a Vader face.
Wow. So 6-episode limited series. It was Obi-Wan Kenobi. It is streaming in its entirety on Disney Plus right now. If you are just joining us now, you owe it to yourself to go back, watch the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Do go back and watch our series, The High Ground, as we break it down beat by beat. That's what we do here with Star Wars. That being said, guys, we've got a bit of a break till our next Star Wars review series, and that's going to be with Andor coming up on August 31st. It is going to be a 2-episode debut, and that is going to run for 12 episodes. That carries us right up to the 9th of November. Now, in between then, it's going to get a little busy because on the 28th of September, so that's like what? Oh my Lord, that's a month
and a bit.
A month and a bit. There's going to be a little bit of overlap because season 2 of the Bad Batch is going to start on September 28th.
Mm-hmm.
So that means we're going to have a week where we're going to have possibly 1 or 2 episodes of the Bad Batch. If they do a double drop on the first week, that will overlap with Andor. That, however, is a problem for another day. What I want to put out to you guys and to the fans of our show is when we set out to do the High Ground, we proposed a few titles for the show because, as you know, if you guys have been watching all of our other review series, we kind of like to put a theme or put a
little bit of a spin.
Yeah, we like to put a spin on the name of the show that ties into the show that we're watching. I mean, if you've been watching our Fandalorian series, then you definitely know what that's about. If you've been watching the Fan Batch, then you're probably very well aware of what that is.
Fan Division.
Even our Order 66 4-part miniseries was pretty on the nose. With Andor coming up here in just a few weeks, I kind of got an idea rolling around in my head, but I want to put it to the fans of the show. If you guys have got a show title that you think would be apt for our next review series, which will be the Cassian Andor series, hit us up on any of our social media. You can leave a comment on this video here on YouTube. You can always email us at fandompower@gmail.com. We want to hear your ideas because right now, I think Fandor kind of writes itself.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah.
All right.
Check out our Patreon because you guys could literally tell us what you want us to call the show or what other shows you want us to do. We'll do anything you want for money. Almost.
All right. What do you think, guys? Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's over for now.
For now.
Man.
For now.
I think it's strong enough it could go a second season.
I do too. I'm down for I'm a fan. So I will always say new Star Wars is better than no Star Wars because that's just the reality that I live.
You know, my favorite Star Wars character of all time and did nothing to detract from that at all. In fact, it might have even made it a lot stronger.
Yeah, and I have a whole newfound respect for the characters of Owen and Beru Lars. And I totally found Reva's character to be compelling. And I actually feel like, oh, you subverted me by, you made me think she was going to be the redemption arc. And it did not dovetail the way that I thought it would.
Right.
So congratulations for, keeping me on my toes. I enjoy that.
And, technically we really do need season 2 so he can go to Dagobah.
That's right.
I think that Ben and Yoda need a reunion.
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, just so I can be right. If no other reason.
I still want the Bad Batch in live action. I don't know if Tamura is down for playing all those clones on screen at the same time, or will that be a CGI nightmare?
Oh, no.
I'd watch it. I mean,
face print them on there.
We're going nowhere but at a breakneck speed. After Andor, after Bad Batch, we've got Ahsoka. We've got, many things. The Acolyte.
Yeah, the Acolyte. Is the Lando thing still on?
Still on? Yeah, I mean, I've heard talk about it anyway.
Is Rogue Squadron still on?
Rogue Squadron is still on.
And then there's that other project from Taika Waititi.
Which is
apparently going to take a huge left turn and not focus on the Skywalker.
Yeah, he said he's going to write all new characters that are not connected to anything. So
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that.
And supposedly last part of the fiscal year of 2023. So, there's going to be 2023 is going to be a big jam-packed full Star Wars kind of year.
Yeah, and that's just on Disney Plus.
Right.
2023, the Waititi thing, that's going to be our return to the cinema, isn't it?
I believe
That's
so.
correct.
Yeah, that's going to be a film. So is that going to hit before? No, the Rogue Squadron thing. That was Patty Jenkins' thing, which is apparently on hold.
It is on hold.
That's where I kind of go like, is it still?
Else.
Yeah. What's going to come first, the Waititi or the Jenkins?
I don't know.
Everything I've read says the Taiko
The Waititi
Taiko
thing. Okay.
is being pushed forward, and we should get it in cinemas in 2023.
Okay. Well, I'm excited for what the future holds for Star Wars, which means I'm excited for what the future holds for our show, because the more content that Lucasfilm or any of the other properties that we like gives us, the more that we can give back to you guys. And you know what? We're here because we love what we do. So, we're happy to have you along with us for the long ride. And please do go check us out on all the places that we have a show. If you want to take us with you in the car, we are on all of the audio platforms where you can find podcasts. So please check us out there on your platform of choice.
We got one more from Sean.
What do we got? What's Sean want to say?
Let's see the fight they talk about in the elevator in episode 2.
Oh, in the nest with the nest of Gundarks?
Yeah, that's right.
Was that what it was, about a nest of Gundarks?
Yeah, that's right.
That'd be good.
That's
Kinda
so
weird,
good.
isn't
That could be interesting. We've seen Gundarks in Rebels, and they are they're terrifying.
They are, yeah.
All right, guys, that's it for me. This has been The High Ground. It has been our 6-episode review series on Obi-Wan Kenobi. I hope you guys enjoyed it, because there is lots more to come from us here at Fandom Power. So until next time, everybody, my name is Wes.
I'm Andy.
I'm Hank.
And we will see you on the next one. Bye for now, guys.